On Saturday, we go through and upload a few different videos, but felt like it was important for us to get a Q&A live stream going. That way we can answer some start-sit questions. I would say this is the most important week of the season of getting your start-sit decisions right. I mean, obviously, you have the Fantasy Football Championship, you have the semifinals, but the first week of the playoffs, win or go home, baby. I mean, we got to go out there. You have to get these lineups down, or you're not even going to get a shot to be submitting lineups over the next few weeks. And as I set up this live stream, please make sure, if you have not done so already, drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. If you want to check out any of these player props, you're going to always find the link in the comment section, description, or in the live chat, literally available everywhere. And when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy, they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. And it's available in damn near every state. Now, make sure you go ahead and take advantage of that with promo code FLOCK. I'm sorry. Promo code FLOCK, definitely, especially when we were able to get y'all a ton of free bets with promo code FLOCK. But I think that should be about it. Let me go ahead and let me pull up this live chat. And dear God, we have a lot of people out here already. Thank you so much for everybody coming out with us this fine Saturday morning. Going to be excited to set this up. Okay, so we have the chat on subscriber only. Let me send out a link to Underdog and then set up a poll. And we should be good to go to start answering questions. Teresa out here. Thank you, Teresa, for coming and hanging out with us. Really hope that you had a phenomenal season. Hope that you were able to make it to the fantasy football playoffs. If y'all don't know, Teresa was probably more important to this channel than I was this year. I mean, 100% making the chat run like a smooth ship. But let's go ahead and let's get into our first question. Coming out from Jordan says, good morning. With Huntley back, are we going to go with Mark Andrews or David Njoku? So obviously, Mark Andrews has been horrible. For where we drafted Mark Andrews, and I say we because I did draft Mark Andrews, he has been very, very bad. But at the same time, while Mark Andrews hasn't come close to giving you the production you expected, Mark Andrews right now is the second tight end in fantasy in points per game. So even with Andrews being horrible in his own right, Andrews is still that guy. And Andrews is still the player that you have to start every single week. Not necessarily because he's phenomenal, he's elite. It's more so you're at a spot where every other tight end is horrendous. So I'm not going to tell anybody to bench Mark Andrews, even if he hasn't been great as of late. Now, Elijah coming out says, hey, Mason, start to Brady, Dalton, Ryan, and Huntley. So I do think that you have Tom Brady in a bounce back spot against Cincinnati here. I mean, going to last week, it was clear, easily a spot to be benching Tom Brady. He was playing the 49ers defense. We know the 49ers have the best defense in the NFL, but this week, the spread on this game is only about 3.5 points. I think it is going to be pseudo competitive, and we will go ahead. We'll start Tom Brady and Tyler Huntley. Tyler Huntley obviously has the rushing upside, and while Tom Brady's been very bad this year compared to his expectations, to be fair to him, like we were with Mark Andrews, Tom Brady right now is number 4 in the NFL in passing yards. Like, the passing volume's still there, even if you're not excited about Brady as the actual player at this point. Now, Chris coming out with the donation with no question. Thank you, my friend, for supporting the channel. Really hope that you have a great day. Really hope you're able to make it to the playoffs. And True Player says, Mason, please tell me you're benching Jalen Waddle. Let's pull up the updated weather that we have with Buffalo. Now it's the morning of. I will pay some respect to the weatherman because I think the weatherman is probably going to be a little bit smarter than he would have been at the beginning of the week. And yep, supposed to snow. The wind is supposed to be around 10 miles per hour, so not bad there. Let me pull up the implied team total that we have with the Miami Dolphins. I know the spread on this game last time we checked was about 7.5 points. Maybe it was just 7. But regardless, it was about a touchdown. Yeah, so the spread's still 7 points. You have Miami supposedly as the 26th worst offense in the NFL. The only offenses that are supposed to be worse this week, and of course, this is given the fact that it's a tough matchup and you have the weather, are Baltimore, Houston, Arizona, Pittsburgh, and Los Angeles, pretty much all of whom are on backup quarterbacks at this point. I am fine saying Jalen Waddle at this point, with the weather being officially bad in Buffalo, is not a must-start player. Now, I am too emotionally attached. I am too biased to say that he is someone that we need to be benching. I think if you have another quality guy, maybe you have someone like Chris Olave in a very good matchup going up against the Atlanta Falcons. That is something we can explore. But for the time being, I am going to be hesitant to go through and tell everybody to bench our guy. I mean, come on. Jalen Waddle's gotten us there, right? He has. And real quick, we just hit 100 likes on this live stream. Thank you so much for everybody dropping a like. I mean, 100 likes 5 minutes in. Thank you so much. And Bedro says, Patriots or Bills DST? I mean, right now, if we're going to be looking at that game, like we said, you have the Bills as 7-point favorites. If we're looking at the Patriots, however, I mean, they're only favored by, I believe, 1 point, if at all. No, actually, they're 1-point dogs, depending on the sports book you're looking at. I mean, it's 1 point one way or another. I'm fine if you wanted to go through and play the Buffalo DST. Vegas is telling us that they're going to be in a better game environment. And then Chris Moore or Deontay Johnson. I refuse to play anybody for the Houston Texans. We're going to go Deontay Johnson. Now, Derek says, pick 2 in a full BBR format. Juju, Garrett Wilson, Deontay, hook 'em horns, Zay Jones, love you, bro. Now, thank you so much, my man, for being a member of the flock. I really hope that you have a great Saturday. And if we're having to pick 2 of these guys, I mean, in a full BBR format, not really going to be too interested in Deontay Foreman. If you're looking at Deontay Foreman, doesn't catch the ball, and now operating in a 3-man running back by committee, it's a little painful. It's a fine matchup. They are favored, but I don't think we go in that direction. Instead, I think we play Garrett Wilson, even with Zach Wilson under center. It's just too good of a matchup against the Detroit Lions to pass up on. And then we will go Juju Smith-Schuster in that full BBR format over Deontay Johnson. You don't love Juju in a game where they're not going to have to throw the ball against the Houston Texans, but kind of is what it is. Now, Joshua says a full BBR for the playoffs, 1 flex, 1 tight end, 1 quarterback. We have Goff or Rodgers, Juwan Johnson or the rookie tight end in Tennessee. We're going to go rookie tight end in Tennessee because you have no Treylon Burks there. Then Bam Knight, George Pickens, Jep Wilson, Darius Slayton, Cam Akers, Elijah Moore, and Ben Skoranek. We're going to go Bam Knight. I mean, I feel like this is the first time we're telling anybody to start Bam Knight this week. But, I mean, at the end of the day, we saw what the role was last week. I mean, the man is still clearly being played ahead of Michael Carter Jr. And then between Jared Goff and Aaron Rodgers, I mean, it's a little tougher of a spot. If you're looking at the Lions' implied team total right now, they're supposed to score about 22 points. The Packers are literally at 23. I would still go with Jared Goff over Aaron Rodgers, however. Neither quarterback has rushing upside. I think the Packers are going to be able to run the ball effectively against the Rams where they are 7-point favorites. So you know what? Let's go ahead and let's play Jared Goff here over Aaron Rodgers. I definitely understand why Rodgers would be interesting in this format, though. Okay. Now, Patrick says Garrett Wilson or Amari Cooper in a full PPR format. I mean, if we were going to be looking at Mike White under center, I mean, I actually probably would have gone ahead and I probably would have told you to play Garrett Wilson over Amari Cooper in a great matchup against the Detroit Lions. But at this point, if we're starting Zach Wilson, I think it's enough to pivot over to Amari. JN coming out says, greetings from Orlando. Go Duvernay. Nice cut, my guy. My man, I did not know that you were in Orlando. Please text me. What are you doing in Orlando? I hope that you are enjoying it, but let me know. Now, Frank says, got Rachaad White, Michael Pittman, and Wilson. Not sure which 2 to start. I would personally probably roll with the 2 wide receivers in Garrett Wilson and Michael Pittman if we are going to be looking at a full PPR league. I mean, a really good matchup for Michael Pittman going up against the Minnesota Vikings where they've just been garbage so far this season, at least on the defensive side of the ball. And then same thing with Garrett Wilson. Like Garrett Wilson, I mean, great wide receiver, great matchup, even if it's bad quarterback play. Now, Nemesis says Watson, Goff, or a Huntley. I personally am going to go ahead and play. Oh my gosh. I want to tell you Deshaun Watson, but I can't, right? I can't in good faith tell you Deshaun Watson. I think we go Goff even in a horrible matchup against the Jets. Obviously, the Jets have a great secondary. The Jets have a great defense overall. I'm not excited to tell you Jared Goff, but I think we do go Jared Goff. And then Dobbins, Garrett Wilson, Montgomery, Swift, Lazard, start 2. And also, is it okay to play Waddle in that snow? I mean, going back to what we were discussing earlier, it's a little tougher to play Jalen Waddle now that we know there's officially snow in Buffalo and it's not just a projection at the beginning of the week. Let me pull up and see if we can get... Oh my gosh. I would still play Jalen Waddle, but my brain is broken. I would still play Jalen Waddle, but my brain is broken. I mean, if we're looking at these options, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to play Garrett Wilson in a great matchup against the Detroit Lions. And then we're going to go J.K. Dobbins in a plus matchup against the Cleveland Browns rush defense as well. I mean, I still think Dobbins is going to be probably in a 3-man running back by committee, but great this past week and great matchup. Okay. Now, Lee says, hey, bro, semifinals for me, Superflex, 2 leagues, Matt Ryan or Goff. I know Matt Ryan is a much better spot going up against Minnesota, but we are still going to go Goff or Daniel Jones, both 4-point PPR. Enjoy the holidays, brother. No, thank you so much, my friend, for supporting the channel. You enjoy your Christmas, enjoy your holidays, and we will go with Jared Goff. Daniel Jones, I mean, I believe he is a dog by about 4.5 points against Washington. I mean, he just has not been good for Daniel Jones since you've had every wide receiver going down in New York and every offensive lineman as well. Now, Jessica coming out says, drop Bass and pick up another kicker because of the weather. I think that's probably a safe call. I am no kicker expert, but I think it's a safe call. Warm Cheese says, looking for next week, do I pick up Tampa's defense and drop Rachaad White, P. Ryan, or Deshaun Watson, or Allen Lazard? We've been rolling with the Philadelphia Eagles DST. We have Hurts, Mixon, Etienne, Swift, Adams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Olave. Thanks, brother. No, thank you for supporting the channel. Let me pull up the matchup for you, the Bucks next week. Now, I will say during the season, this is something I never want to do. I never want to be dropping a premium handcuff running back like Samaje P. Ryan so we can roster a second DST. But here, when we're in the fantasy football playoffs, when submitting these starting lineups at this point is absolutely everything, I'm fine with it. And yeah, Tampa's going up against the Arizona Cardinals next week. And you have the Philadelphia Eagles going up, I believe, against the Dallas Cowboys, right? Yeah, they are going up against Dallas. So if you wanted to go through and drop a player like Samaje P. Ryan and go ahead and pick up the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense to prepare for week 15, not going to fault you at all for doing that since we are in the fantasy football playoffs. Now, real quick, we are 2 likes away from hitting 200 likes in this live stream. Please, if you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like on the live stream for us. It does help us out a ton. I'm going to show y'all how to do this as well. Look, it's wild. You click that. You go over to this, and you click that little thumbs up emoji, and then it dances. It flashes. It is so cool. Just trust me on it. You can see it on your phone. And also, if y'all want to check out any of these player props for today, you know you can find them on Underdog Fantasy. Promo code FLOCK. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up 200. Link in the live chat, link in the description, available in every state, or damn near every state. I apologize. Now, Daniel says, Waddle or Mike Williams? Thanks, Fantasy King. No, thank you, my friend. If the snow looks horrendous at kickoff, you can pivot over to Mike Williams over Jalen Waddle. If the snow's very, very bad at kickoff, I think we can do it. I mean, Mike Williams does have a phenomenal matchup going up against the Tennessee Titans, where the Titans have allowed the most points to opposing wide receivers so far this season. Now, the Greta coming out says start 2 full BBR, Mike Williams, Amari, as well as Chris Olave. Really like the matchup for Mike Williams, but we will go Amari Cooper, Chris Olave, guys that are going to be bona fide #1 targets in their respective offenses. Now, Colin says Ramondre Stevenson, if he's healthy, Pierre Strong, the backup to Stevenson, Thielen, Curtis Samuel, Elijah Moore, or Raheem Mostert in the flex spot. We're going to plan on going Ramondre Stevenson if he's healthy, and if he's not, then we'll pivot over to the backup if that's our last second choice. I would rather have Adam Thielen over all the other flex options, however. The issue, obviously, with having to figure out if you're going to start someone like Raheem Mostert when we're waiting on Ramondre Stevenson news is Mostert plays today. I mean, Ramondre doesn't play till 3 p.m. tomorrow, so it is a tough spot. Now, I'll Fight You Naked coming out. Always the best name in the live chat says Pat Frymuth or David Njoku. My friend, I think both these guys are extremely close. If I'm looking at my rankings, I have Njoku at tight end 7. I have Frymuth at tight end 8. So I do think it's almost up to you here if we're going to be honest. But if I had to pick a guy, we are going to go ahead and we're going to take David Njoku now that you have Deontay Johnson officially good to go. Alex says, Judy with Rippin or Higgins with a bad hamstring. I'm going to go T. Higgins with a bad hamstring. I mean, with T. Higgins, I'm the same idiot who said to play him last week when he had 1 snap. But he's practicing in full. The coaching staff's telling us he's good to go. So I'm on my own teams operating under the assumption that T. Higgins is good to go. And if that's the case, I'm playing T. Higgins. I really am. Okay, so now Patrick says, happy BR start to Etienne, Godwin, and Garrett Wilson. I think you have to play Travis Etienne despite the tough matchup, despite him disappointing as of late. The man's getting about 90% of the snaps in his own backfield. Between Godwin and Garrett Wilson, I would have had Garrett Wilson ahead of Godwin before Mike White was ruled out. But now that we have Zach Wilson under center, I'm going to pivot over to Chris Godwin. Hate it. Giannis coming out. Thank you. Says, love the community you've built. Watch all your vids. Thanks for everything. Now on to the important stuff. Non-BBRs, sit one. Swift, ETN, and Bam Knight. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, my friend. If it was a full PPR format, obviously we're going to be giving DeAndre Swift a bump up. Non-PPR, you have to be significantly less excited about him when he's operating in a three-man running back by committee. And in that non-PPR format, let's go ahead and let's play Travis Etienne and Bam Knight. If it was a full PPR league, I would roll the dice with Swift over Knight. But non-PPR, let's go Bam, my friend. Now, Shane coming out and says, Amari or Bam Knight at the flex in a half PPR. I'm going to go Amari Cooper. I mean, he's at home. They are favored. I think it's a good environment for Amari. Tim says, looking snazzy. Thank you. Pick two in a full PPR format. McKinnon, Dobbins, Amari, Deontay, Chris Moore. I think we're going to go ahead. We're going to be playing the combo of Amari Cooper as well as J.K. Dobbins. I mean, with Amari, I really like the game environment. With Dobbins, great matchup as well, even if he is operating in a running back by committee. Space Ghost Rider says, should we start Hawkinson or David Njoku in a full PPR format? I mean, hell, I rank T.J. Hawkinson as the tight end 3 this week. Like, I think T.J. Hawkinson is that bona fide must-start guy every single week. He gets a crap ton of volume, and it's a fine matchup. Chris says, I'm in the playoffs. Are we going to go McKinnon or Thielen in the flex? And then also, are we going to go with Brady or Tua to start? If the weather is horrendous, if it looks like a blizzard at kickoff, of course, please make sure we're monitoring this all the way to kickoff, I would be fine with you deciding to go ahead and playing Tom Brady over Tua Tagovailoa. But if the weather clears up a bit, if it's a light snow, if it's not that big of a deal, we can't go Tua. Obviously, it's very difficult for me to make this call when we're, about 8 hours from kickoff, and we don't know exactly what the weather is going to be at the exact time for this game. So it will be something that we have to continue to monitor. And regarding Adam Thielen versus Jerick McKinnon, if the Kansas City Chiefs were playing a team that, I mean, they were going to have to throw the ball against, they weren't just going to run it with Pacheco over and over again, I probably would go Jerick McKinnon, but I don't love the matchup against Houston, knowing that they are just going to boat race the Houston Texans here. Now, Brandon says, pick one, Green Bay or Dallas's DST. And then also Najee, Judy, White if Ramondre Stevenson's out. If Ramondre's out, we're going to go ahead and play Najee Harris. I think maybe we just hold out hope that Ramondre plays and then pivot over to Jerry Jeudy as a backup option if he's ruled out as a game time decision. And if we're going to be looking at what we have with the Dallas versus Green Bay DST, obviously you have a better defense if we are going to be looking at Dallas in general. But you really love the matchup for Green Bay here, where the Los Angeles Rams have the lowest implied team total this week. They're supposed to be the worst offense according to Las Vegas sportsbooks. The Packers are favored by 7 points as well. Whereas if we're going to be looking at the Dallas Cowboys, I mean, Dallas is only favored by 4 to Jacksonville. Jacksonville's supposed to score 22 points compared to the Rams at 16. So I think Dallas has the better DST, but given the matchup, we may go Green Bay. Now, we just hit 300 likes on this live stream. Thank you so much for everybody going down there and dropping a like on the stream. Looks like about half of y'all have already, so thank you. And if you have not done so yet, fix your life. Patrick says, fade locked quarterbacks week 16, 17, like Philadelphia for Hunt quarterbacks. No, I don't necessarily think that you need to be worried about Jalen Hurts being sat in week 16, week 17, week 18, different story. But keep in mind, only one NFL team gets the bye at this point. So it's a little bit different than what you've seen in years past where, I mean, things are going to be locked into place weeks out in advance. Merck says, hey, Mason, start to Bam Knight, Garrett Wilson, Deontay Foreman, J.K. Dobbins. It's a 10-team half PPR league. I think we're going to go ahead. I think we're going to be playing the combo of Garrett Wilson and Dobbins. I mean, Bam Knight had fewer snaps than Michael Carter last week, even if he does look like he's going to be the lead running back. Deontay Foreman in a 3-man running back by committee. Not too much interest. Williams says, 12-team PPR league. We got 1 quarterback, 3 receivers, 2 running backs, a tight end, and a flex. Allen, obviously. We're starting Allen regardless of the weather. Please, everybody know you start Josh Allen regardless. Diggs, you start regardless. Adams, you start regardless. Hopkins, you start regardless. So those are going to be our 3 wide receivers. Our 2 running backs, we're going to go with the combo of James Conner and Tony Pollard. Our tight end, we're going to go with Mark Andrews over TJ Hawkinson. And then for the flex spot, we're actually probably going to end up playing Travis Etienne here, even with the gross matchup, my friend. But now, Matthias says, non-PBR, need to start 3 between Waddle, Godwin, Olave, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Need the higher ceiling. Thanks, Mason. No, thank you for supporting the channel, my friend. I'm going to go Waddle, Godwin, and Olave. I think a lot of people with the weather would tell you to go ahead and play Donovan Peoples-Jones over Waddle, but I mean, maybe we reevaluate if it's a true full-blown blizzard at kickoff. We'll reevaluate. Trailer Park Boys says, start 2 in a full PBR league. Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, ETN, Garrett Wilson, and Christian Watson. I think we're going to go with the combo of a Keenan Allen as well as Travis Etienne. I would have played Garrett Wilson if it wasn't for Zach Wilson under center. Now, Bond says, do I pick Tua most likely in a snow game or go with Daniel Jones? If the snow game is not ridiculous, if it's not the Philadelphia Eagles, Detroit Lions snow game from like a decade ago, we are going to end up going ahead and just playing Tua Tagovailoa over Daniel Jones. Like right now, if we look at the updated Vegas lines, keep in mind, Vegas sportsbooks know all about the weather. They probably know more about the weather than we do. They have the Miami Dolphins 7-point dogs. If we're looking at the over-under in this game, I mean, 43 points. If we're comparing this to the Giants over-under sitting at 40.5. Unless it's a full-blown blizzard at kickoff, I go to over Daniel Jones. Now, Gibmore says, a morning brothers sit to Barkley, Etienne, Jefferson, Diggs, Tyreek, Jamal Williams, Cam Akers. We're going to bench Jamal Williams, Cam Akers, my friend. Not going to think about it too much either. Even if some of these studs have tough matchups, you start your studs. Don't overthink it. Also, we're going to play Frymuth or Hawkinson. Appreciate the help, sir. No, thank you so much, my man. You know I always do appreciate you, and I will send you an email shortly. We are going to go ahead. We are going to be playing TJ Hawkinson over Pat Frymuth. Yeah, I mean, with Frymuth, he's been great, but Hawkinson's just been better. Much, much better offense for the Minnesota Vikings. Whereas if we're going to be looking at the implied team totals here, you have the Vikings projected to score 25.5 points by Las Vegas Sportsbooks compared to the Steelers at about 17.25. So yeah, thank you so much as always, my man. Appreciate talking to you. I mean, appreciate you and looking forward to talking to you later on. But Bono Big says, who to start? Amari, Lamb, Allen, Waddle. We need 2 receivers and a flex. So essentially, we just need to go through and bench one guy here. We can bench Jalen Waddle. If these are the options, if we're looking at guys like CeeDee Lamb, yes, we can bench Jalen Waddle in this range with the weather. I mean, if it was going to be someone a little better, it would be tougher, to be honest. Now, Jordan says, Gibson or Singletary. It's a snow game in Buffalo, though. Yeah, I mean, it is gross. If it's a full PBR format, I'm going to go Gibson. Singletary operating in a 3-man running back by committee in Buffalo at the moment. Anthony says, good morning, sir. PBR, need a wide receiver and 2 flex. We have Godwin, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Hollywood, Bam Knight, Jerry Jeudy. Looking rough out there. Thank you. No, thank you for supporting the channel, my friend. And I think we are honestly going to go with Godwin easily at wide receiver. And then for the 2 flex spots, here's where we can go back and forth. And then we go Jerry Jeudy, even with Russell Wilson being out. I mean, you have no Sutton, no Patrick, no Hamler, no Hinton. Literally 4 out of the 5 top wide receivers for Green Bay are out this game. Judy's the only guy left. Kind of have to go ahead and play him. And the between Donovan Peoples-Jones, Hollywood, Bam Knight. Gross matchup for Hollywood Brown. Not too excited about it. In a full BBR format, I will lean with the receiver, though. Now, Carlos coming out with a massive donation. Thank you. Says, help with setting the starters in a full PBR league. We have Hurts, Adams, A.J. Brown, Cooks, Swift, Schultz, Watson as a flex. And then on the bench, we have Rashad White, Brian Robinson, Cam Akers, Kadarius Toney, Greg Dulcich. And then for the DST, we need to pick between the Ravens or the Saints. Thanks, bro. No, thank you so much for supporting the channel, my man. And right now, you actually have the Cleveland Browns favored over the Baltimore Ravens right now by about, I believe, 3 points. Whereas if we're going to be looking at the New Orleans Saints, they're favored about 4 points over the Atlanta Falcons. Desmond Ridder making his first start. I think the Saints defense is going to be a phenomenal option to go with. And then if we're going to be looking at what we can do in terms of taking a player out of the starting lineup, I mean, I would be interested in looking at DeAndre Swift versus Rashad White. I am not going to tell you, okay, my man, you need to take DeAndre Swift out. You need to put Rachaad White in, because in reality, I think they're extremely close. In reality, I have DeAndre Swift at running back 21. I have Rachaad White at running back 22. Can we ask the live chat, please, everybody, help Carlos out here. I think really you have no other considerations of guys that are on the bench right now to put in the starting lineup. But who would you start? Are you going to be going with DeAndre Swift or Rachaad White? Please, we have 800 people out here in the live chat. Can everybody go ahead, spam the live chat? Let me know. Are you going with Rachaad White or DeAndre Swift? Okay. So we have Swift, White, Swift. Oh, yeah. So Carlos, everybody's saying Swift here. I mean, it's neck and neck for me. I have DeAndre Swift, like I said, ranked one spot higher. I think it is what it is. But looks like everybody in the chat saying DeAndre Swift, and 99.999%, if not 100% of the people in the chat are smarter than me. So I think we're going to go ahead. We're going to take DeAndre Swift here, my man. Now, Madeline says, pick 2 at a full PPR league. We got Michael Pittman, Garrett Wilson, Christian Watson, and Amari Cooper. I think we're going to go with the combo of Garrett Wilson as well as Amari Cooper. You're not as excited about Garrett Wilson with Zach Wilson, but, I mean, it's a great matchup going up against the Detroit Lions. Beefy Bitcoin, always happy to have you out, says, I'm still in first place standings in a high money league. Will Lamar Jackson come back with Goddard? Will Goddard get back this week? And should I stick with Metcalf and Tyler Lockett next week, or go Watson and Olave? So you're probably not even going to get the shot to go Tyler Lockett. It sounds like Lockett will be missing next week with his hand surgery. So I think what you're probably going to end up doing is reevaluating that second wide receiver spot between Watson and Olave based on what they have this week, but definitely still be starting DK Metcalf. I'm expecting Lamar Jackson and Dallas Goedert to probably be back next week. Now, the issue with Lamar is, like, obviously the team wants him back ASAP, but Lamar Jackson does not have the long-term guaranteed money. Like, Lamar Jackson doesn't have a contract next season. So it's probably best for Lamar Jackson to, take his sweet old time getting back into this offense. So it's difficult to know exactly when Lamar is going to be coming back just based off the incentives that both parties have. I would be interested to know what y'all think, though. I'm assuming we get Dallas Goedert back very soon. Now, real quick, we are 1 like away from hitting 400 likes in this live stream. Please, if you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like on the live stream. Looks like about half of y'all have, so thank you so much. And Owen says, who should I start at tight end? Andrews, Driscoll, or Darren Waller? I'm going to go Mark Andrews. I'm not going to overthink it. If we were told Jeff Driscoll is the starting quarterback, it's going to take every single snap at quarterback this week, then sure, we can go with them. But I just have no idea what's going on there, so we're going to take Mark Andrews, who's been the tight end 2 in fantasy so far. Andy says, Higgins, Kirk, Amon-Ra, Olave, and we need 2. Well, we're going to go ahead. We're going to be playing the combo of Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and T. Higgins. If you're not concerned about T. Higgins' hamstring, if you are worried about the hamstring, then we're going to pivot over to Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Chris Olave. And then we also need 2 between Miles Sanders, Joe Mixon, Bam Knight, J.K. Dobbins. We're going to play the guys in the 2 best offenses. We're going to go Miles Sanders and Joe Mixon. And then for the flex spot, if whoever's left over, it's going to be whoever you decided not to start between T. Higgins and Chris Olave. Jacob says, no Lamar Jackson or Mike White, 6-point passing touchdown league. Are we playing Tyler Huntley, Matt Ryan, Taylor Heineke, or Andy Dalton? And in a full BBR format, are we playing Swift or Pacheco and McLaurin or Kirk? Full BBR league, I'm actually probably going to go Swift over Pacheco, despite Pacheco having the best matchup you could ever imagine. He's not going to catch the ball out of the backfield where Swift will. And then between Terry McLaurin and Christian Kirk, it's really just up to you. I'll say Terry McLaurin has the better matchup. Kirk's in the better offense. Kirk has dramatically outscored Terry McLaurin so far this season. Like, we have them in a very, very similar range. I do think that one's going to be up to you. Maybe we end up going Kirk just because his offense is supposed to be better. And then at quarterback, 6-point passing touchdown format, makes it where the rushing upside matters a little less. But we still will go Tyler Huntley when he can get you 50, 60 rushing yards any given week. Now, Trailer Park Boy says, Dalvin or David Montgomery? Go Dalvin Cook, please. Great matchup for Dalvin Cook. Pick 2, Hopkins, Waddle, and Amari. We will go Hopkins and Amari. I think it's easy to use the weather as a tiebreak here if we're going to be looking at wide receivers of this caliber. Now, Kyle says, Amari, Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, Terry McLaurin. Pick 3. We're going to bench Terry McLaurin just because I'm expecting him to probably be in one of the worst offenses out of this group. I mean, maybe you make the argument the Jets with Zach Wilson are worse than Washington, but Garrett Wilson's much better than Terry McLaurin. He's dramatically outscored Terry McLaurin over the past 2 months. Now, Willie Pete says, a must-win, start Pollard, Etienne, or Pacheco. I mean, if you're looking at my rankings here, we are going to have a Pollard and Etienne in a similar range. I currently have Tony Pollard running back 14, Travis Etienne running back 18. We have Tyreek, Devontae Adams, the wide receivers, and A.J. Brown at the flex. Definitely keep the wide receiver and flex position the same. We will go Tony Pollard at RB. Now, Dizen just says, need a flex, Garrett Wilson or Dobbins in a full PPR format. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, my friend. Non-PPR format, I think we can pivot over to J.K. Dobbins. Bowen Dobbins literally will not have a single reception out of the backfield, or we'll be cutting it close to see if he gets any work as a pass catcher. I think we can easily just go Garrett Wilson. And then MCF says, non-PPR, pick 2, Christian Watson, J.K. Dobbins, or DeAndre Swift. We're going to go with the combo of non-PPR, we're going to go Dobbins and Christian Watson. Thank God we read that. I mean, with Christian Watson, just beautiful in a non-PPR format. I mean, in that non-PPR league, the only thing that matters is touchdowns, and the only thing Christian Watson does is score touchdowns. And then also pick one between Everett, Kmet, and Jeff Driscoll. I have no freaking idea what the role is going to be for Jeff Driscoll. If he is the starting quarterback, if you think he has that role, obviously you go with him. But if we're just looking at Gerald Everett versus Cole Kmet, when Everett now has Mike Williams as well as Keenan Allen back in his offense, and Cole Kmet now has no Darnell Mooney, no Chase Claypool, we would go Kmet. Now, Shady says, start Taylor or Keenan Allen. If this is Jonathan Taylor, my friend, you go Jonathan Taylor. You don't overthink it. And Javon says, Daniel Jones or Deshaun Watson in a PPR league. Daniel Jones has had every wide receiver on his team just decimated. Same thing with this offensive line. We go Deshaun. Lewis coming out says, flex 1, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Lazard, Ramondre / Pierre Strong, half PPR format, we're the favorite. We're going to go ahead, we're going to plan on playing Ramondre Stevenson. If he's not going to go, just pivot over to Pierre Strong. I don't think there's a massive gap between Pierre Strong and someone like Alan Lazard. Now, Kevin says, in a half PPR league, essentially, Deontay Foreman or Deontay Johnson. I think we are going to go with Deontay Foreman over Deontay Johnson. Good matchup against Pittsburgh, where Carolina is favored. Don't love Deontay Foreman, though, knowing that it's a spot where, I mean, hell, he's operating in a 3-man running back by committee. Joe says, at least he did this past week. And Joe says, need a running back 2, wide receiver 2, and a flex between Swift, Jamal, Foreman, Gibson, Brian Robinson, Zay Jones, Lazard, Deontay, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Thank you for the content and the advice. And thank you so much for being a member of the flock, my man. We are going to go Donovan Peoples-Jones at wide receiver relatively easily based on what we had over the past month. Plus, I like the matchup. And if we're going to be looking at running back here, do we just play both Swift and Jamal and get every touch out of this backfield? I think that's what I probably do. I mean, the Detroit Lions running back room has scored a ton of points so far this year. It's hard to know exactly what the... It's hard to know exactly what the role is going to be for either guy. But if we start both of them, I mean... we're going to get just every touch. We are going to have a good shot at it. So let's start both Swift and Jamal Williams. Now, next question coming out from, I believe, Eli says, Etienne, Rashad White, Dobbins, or Bam Knight. I'm going to go Etienne relatively easily. Still playing about 85% of the snaps out of his backfield. Tough matchup against Dallas. Phil says, Amari over Waddle considering the weather. Yes, considering the weather, I think we can go Amari Cooper over Jalen Waddle now. And Alvaro says, am I an idiot for starting Najee over Etienne? Well, also, we have Dobbins in the flex, Rashad Montgomery on the bench. You're doing amazing, by the way. No, thank you so much for supporting the channel. And I don't want to say you're an idiot. I understand a lot of other people would say, yeah, let's go ahead and let's play Najee Harris. Let's play Travis Etienne. I don't think you're an idiot one way or another, because if I'm looking at my rankings, I have Najee Harris ranked running back 17. I have Travis Etienne ranked running back 18. I have J.K. Dobbins ranked running back 19. So I think it's impossible for anybody to say, oh, you're an idiot for wanting Travis Etienne over J.K. Dobbins. Or, oh, you're an idiot for wanting J.K. Dobbins over Travis Etienne. I think they're all about the same. I think they are in a similar range. I mean, if I were to start 2 of the 3, I would be going with the combo of Najee Harris and Travis Etienne. Now, Jay Carlos says, pick 3, Christian Watson, Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, Deontay, A.J. Dillon, Rashad White, and Bam Knight. Honestly, assuming it's a PPR format, I'm going with the wide receivers. We're going to go Christian Watson. We're going to go Jalen Waddle. We're going to go Devonta Smith. I mean, obviously, if you had no Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon would be a must-start guy here, but it sounds like Aaron Jones should be good to go coming out of the bye week. And now Carl coming out says, made it to the Final Four of the Guillotine League. Hell yes, my man. Are we going to go Fields or Cousins as a super flex? I think we are going to go with Justin Fields, even though it is a very tough matchup. Like, what do you have to see from Justin Fields? The man has all the rushing upside in the world. Also, need 5 in a full PPR formats. We have Etienne, Adams, Waddle, Garrett Wilson, Amari, Juju, McLaurin, Mike Williams, Evans, or T. Higgins. Thanks again. No, thank you for supporting the channel. Let's go with the easy options. Devontae Adams, easy must-start guy. Travis Etienne, easy must-start guy. Amari Cooper will call must-start player. Where we go off the rails is when we're looking at, essentially we have to start 2 of Jalen Waddle, Garrett Wilson, Juju McLaurin, Mike Williams, Mike Evans, or T. Higgins. Oh my gosh. I think we plan on going T. Higgins and Garrett Wilson unless the weather clears up a bit in Buffalo by the time we get to the Miami Dolphins kickoff. And if the weather does clear up a bit and it doesn't look like it's a full-blown blizzard, then at that point you could pivot off of Garrett Wilson with Zach Wilson under center and go back over to Jalen Waddle. But I think at this point, if you're looking at the weather in Buffalo, this is about the time where we can officially say, yeah, we should be a little worried. Now, to the max coming out, says a full BBR win to get in. We need a running back, receiver, and a flex. We have Najee, Dobbins, White, Mostert. Full BBR, we're going to go Najee Harris over J.K. Dobbins. Receiver, we have Waddle, Godwin. Thanks for all the amazing work. No, thank you for supporting the channel. We're going to go Godwin at wide receiver. And for the flex spot between Waddle, Dobbins, in a full BBR format, unless it looks like it's an apocalypse with how bad the weather is going to be, we're going to go Jalen Waddle. We go Jalen Waddle, but keep in mind if you decide to play him today, you don't want to be playing him in the flex. You want to instead move one of those wide receivers that play later in the week to the flex spot. Now, Andy says, start McLaurin, Christian Watson, or Mike Williams in a must-win matchup. I know most people are going to say Christian Watson. Trust me, with how many leagues I have Christian Watson in versus Mike Williams, I would love Christian Watson to outscore him. But I think Mike Williams will be a better option this week. I mean, with Mike Williams, much, much better offense. And going up against the Tennessee Titans, who have allowed the most points to opposing wide receivers so far this season. Okay, so now our next question coming out from, I believe, Wet Bandit says, quarterback debacle. We got Daniel Jones, Aaron Rodgers, Tua, Brady, or Ryan Tannehill. If the weather clears up at all, we are going to go ahead. We are going to take Tua. If the weather clears up at all, I think Tua is going to be the best option. If not, our backup pivot option will actually end up being Tom Brady, who obviously, if you're a Bucs fan, you're not as excited about Tom Brady as you used to be. Brady looks like he has taken a step back, but I think it's difficult to use this past week against him, knowing that he had to play the toughest defense in the NFL with the San Francisco 49ers. And on top of it, I mean, while Brady hasn't been his usual self this season, the man still is top 5 in the NFL in passing yards. Still top 5 in the NFL in passing. Okay, so now our next question coming out from, I believe, Brandon says, PBR pick 1, Bam Knight or Brian Robinson. Also need a streamer for Tua, either Daniel Jones, Andy Dalton, or any other recommendations. I play Tua over these guys. I don't care what the weather is. And then if we're going to be looking at Bam Knight versus Brian Robinson, I mean, in our rankings, we have them in the same tier. I think we end up going with Bam Knight. The man does get targeted out of the backfield where Brian Robinson really hasn't been involved in that area. Now, True Player coming out, always happy to have you, says, start a wide receiver in a flex between Chris Moore, hell to the no, Darius Slayton, Deontay Johnson, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and then the rookie tight end in Tennessee. I'm going to go with the combo of Deontay Johnson and Donovan Peoples-Jones. And Fidelo says, are we going to go with Brady or Goff? I'm going to go Goff over Brady. And then Kirk or Zeke at the flex. I mean, in a full PPR format, it's going to be interesting where Zeke doesn't catch the ball. I think Christian Kirk would have a higher ceiling. Ezekiel Elliott would have a higher floor. It's obviously a very tough matchup for Christian Kirk. But John coming out with a massive dono. Thank you, my friend, says, hey, Mason, full BBR, choose 2 out of these guys, Dobbins, Pittman, and McLaurin. I'm going to go with the combo of Dobbins and Pittman, who both have phenomenal matchups. Michael Pittman, you get him going up against the Minnesota Vikings, the defense that's allowed about 30 points per game over the past month. With Dobbins, you get him going up against a very soft Cleveland Browns rush D. So I actually really like both players. I think we're going to go with the combo of Dobbins and Pittman. I wouldn't fault you if you wanted to go McLaurin over Dobbins, but I mean, I don't know. I just really like the matchups for those two guys. Ian coming out, thank you, says, am I making a mistake for starting Deshaun Watson over Trevor Lawrence? Good luck this week, my friend. No, good luck, my man. I'm really wishing you the best. So if we're looking at the implied team totals right now, Vegas telling us that Jags are supposed to score about 22 points. The Browns are supposed to score a little bit less. I'd imagine the Browns actually run the ball a little bit more than the Jacksonville Jaguars. If you look at my quarterback rankings this week as well, we had Trevor Lawrence at 10, Deshaun Watson at 12. So, I mean, I think everything's showing that we should be going Lawrence. I mean, the Jags are only 4-point dogs against the against the Dallas Cowboys. So Vegas is telling us they should be able to move the ball down the field. Now, Pete My Willie says, would you start Hollywood, Brian Robinson, or Waddle in the flex spot? I'm planning on going Waddle unless at kickoff the weather is obnoxiously bad. I'm planning on going Waddle. Have you considered start-sit videos? I love the advice. Happy holidays. Thank you, my friend, for supporting the channel, and that's what those rankings videos are for. I mean, I could sit here and we used to say 5 players you must start this week. In reality, how much does that help? If we talk about 5 players you must start, not everybody has them. If we go through and say, here are my actual rankings, here's who I'd start over the next guy, I think that is significantly more useful than start-sit videos. Now, I'll Fight You Naked coming out says, start Higgins, London, Pierce, or Chris Moore for the flex. I'm an idiot, so keep that in mind, but I'm going to go T. Higgins. I was the same guy who said to start T. Higgins last week when he dropped 0 points. But hell, the coaching staff's telling us that he's practicing in full. I'm going to believe him. I think Higgins is a great player and a great offense. Michael says, in a 10-team app PBR format, we got to bench one between Olave, Etienne, Pittman, Garrett Wilson, Devonta Smith, and Isaiah Pacheco. Pacheco is a great matchup, but, I mean, he is in a split backfield with Jarrett McKinnon. He's not catching the ball out of the backfield. The Chiefs do run the ball in the throw the ball in the red zone. So I would bench Isaiah Pacheco over these other guys. Now, Yacht says, Curtis Samuel or Cam Akers in a full PPR format. I'm going to go Cam Akers. I have no interest in Curtis Samuel at this point, especially with Jahan Dotson in. Don't love the don't love the fact that they're 7-point dogs. But with Cam Akers, he is operating as a starting running back in this offense, of course. Norris says Dobbins, Najee, or Isaiah Pacheco for the flex spot. I mean, I don't think we consider Pacheco here. If I'm going to be honest, it's going to be down between Dobbins and Najee Harris. If I'm looking at my rankings, I have Najee Harris at 17, Dobbins at 19. That's for a full PPR league. So if you're playing in that PPR league, let's go Najee. If you're playing in a non-PPR, I think you can pivot over to Dobbins. Now, Joseph says, drop/bench Tyler Bass, or should he be fine tonight? If the weather's very bad, I think you can bench him. Keep in mind, I am no kicker expert. I would be a flat-out liar if I try to come out here and sell you some magic formula and then I'm some magic guru when it comes to kickers. I think they're primarily random, but if the weather's very bad, I mean, hell, it's an easy spot to avoid. Now, Jay Young says, flex 1, marry 1, kill 1, Diggs, Hill, Jefferson. Little bold words. I mean, I'd marry Justin Jefferson for the long term. I think he's going to age better 5 years from now. We're going to have to flex 1. Probably flex Stephon Diggs with what Vegas is telling us about the Miami Dolphins offense this week. So I guess that means we're killing Tyreek Hill. I don't want to say that out loud, but Tony says we have two receiver spots left. Are we going to go Watson, Jalen Waddle, Donovan Peoples-Jones, or Allen Lazard? I'm going to go Waddle, Christian Watson, almost regardless of what the weather is. Also, who to start at running back between Pacheco, Rashad White, or Deontay Foreman? Thanks. Love the great content. No, thank you so much for supporting the show. Non-PPR, we go Isaiah Pacheco. Full PPR, we go Rashad White. I know that sounds like a cop-out, but it's a pretty big difference if you have Rashad White with 4 or 5 receptions out of the backfield with Isaiah Pacheco at 0. That's like an additional 40, 50 receiving yards or rushing yards being added on to Rashad White just based off those receptions. So full PPR, we go White. Now, Dave the Flav says, Dak or Fields? I mean, obviously, Fields in a horrendous offense. Right now, if we're going to be looking at the implied team totals, the Bears are supposed to score about 20 points this week compared to the Dallas Cowboys at 26. But Justin Fields has all the rushing upside in the world. You go Justin Fields. And then start to Scary Terry, Christian Watson, Chris Olave, Amari, and Evans. We're going to go with the combo of Amari Cooper and Chris Olave. Love the matchups for both guys. Really hoping that Christian Watson outscores Chris Olave with how many leagues I have Christian Watson in, but I don't know how likely it is. Quarterfinals for me. Thanks for all your work, my man. No, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Wishing you the best of luck, my dude. Logan says a full BBR pick 2. We got Knight, Dobbins, Kirk, and Rachaad White. Thanks. So thank you for supporting the channel. I think we're going to go with the combo of J.K. Dobbins and Christian Kirk. Even if Kirk's been bad as of late, the offense has been pretty good, and the man has had a decent amount of targets this season. Okay. Now, Chase says, sit 1 in a full BBR league. Mike Williams, T. Higgins, DeAndre Hopkins, Travis Etienne, as well as Isaiah Pacheco. I think we are going to go with Isaiah Pacheco in a full BBR format. I know Pacheco was involved as a pass catcher this past week, but let me pull this up for you just so you have a decent idea of what the usage as a pass catcher actually looks like for Isaiah Pacheco. So, Isaiah Pacheco's had a role since week 1. Isaiah Pacheco has 124 carries this year. Can y'all take a guess on how many receiving yards Isaiah Pacheco has? I mean, this is a pretty big deal. Just to go back to the thing that we were talking about earlier this season, like let's go ahead and let's pull up Rachaad White, who really hasn't had a role since week 1. But for reference, Rachaad White's given you 40 receptions and 242 receiving yards and the receiving touchdown. So as a pass catcher, if you're playing in a full PBR format, that's an additional about 70 points for Rachaad White as a pass catcher. 70 points. Whereas you have 69 receiving yards with Pacheco off of 9 targets, 9 receptions. So just call it 17 points for Pacheco as a pass catcher, whereas 74 Rachaad White. Like, that's a big freaking difference. So in a full BBR format, I think you're having to bump down Isaiah Pacheco. Mr. Filthy Wub says, nice crispy flow. Thank you, my friend. Says, Allen Lazard or Elijah Moore. I think we go Lazard in a good matchup against the Rams. Obviously, Elijah Moore expanding his role, but if you have Zach Wilson in here, I don't think you can start Elijah Moore. One Way says Higgins or Amari. I think we're going to go probably Amari if you have any worry at all about the hamstring with T. Higgins. Justin says Joshua Palmer, Curtis Samuel, or DJ Moore at the flex spot. Now that we have both Mike Williams as well as Keenan Allen back, we will go DJ Moore. Pierce is hurt, so we need a miracle. I am wishing you the best of luck, my friend. Best of luck. And I think we are going to go DJ Moore. I mean, it is gross, though. Now, Trailer Park Boys says, need 2 receivers, 2 running backs, and 2 flex spots between Etienne, Kamara, JT, Lamb, Keenan, Amari, Garrett Wilson, AJ Brown, Christian Watson, and Hollywood. I think our 2 running backs are going to be Alvin Kamara, Jonathan Taylor. Don't have to think about that. Our 2 wide receivers are going to be AJ Brown as well as Amari Cooper. And then for our 2 flex spots, we're going to be going with Keenan Allen and Travis Etienne. I would have said Garrett Wilson if it wasn't for Zach Wilson starting, though. Now, Angus says, JK or Waddle. Hurts my soul to sit Waddle. I am right there with you, my friend. For that reason, in a full PBR format, I am still planning on starting Jalen Waddle. We will reevaluate if the weather, continues to just be atrocious. We will reevaluate if at kickoff, it looks like a blizzard in Buffalo. But for the time being, I am going to personally plan on going through and playing Jalen Waddle. I think the man's a freaking talented receiver. Now, Tony says we also have Garrett Wilson. This was going back to the... Okay, I'll play Garrett Wilson over Christian Watson. Yeah, I'll play Garrett Wilson over Christian Watson. And AJ says Cousins or Deshaun Watson. I think we are going to go with Kirk Cousins over Deshaun Watson. And then Garrett Wilson or Chris Moore. We're going to go Garrett Wilson easily, regardless of who the starting quarterback's going to be. Think about it. Garrett Wilson has bad quarterback play with Zach Wilson. Is it any better in Houston? No, Houston has horrendous quarterback play as well. And Chris Moore is laughable if you compare him as a talent to Garrett Wilson. Jonathan says, a full BBR start 3, Chris Olave, Michael Pittman, Mike Williams, Garrett Wilson, and Keenan Allen. We're going to go Keenan Allen, Chris Olave, great matchups. With the last spot, I think you can kind of go back and forth between Mike Williams and Garrett Wilson and Michael Pittman. Mike Williams, Michael Pittman, great matchups going up against the Titans as well as the Vikings. They all have great matchups. Garrett Wilson, great matchup against the Detroit Lions. Obviously, Wilson probably, I want to say the best receiver out of the group, but with the worst quarterback play. Start Olave, Keenan Allen, and then can I have everybody in the chat spam this? Please, everybody in the chat, help us out. We have almost 1,000 people here. Who are you starting out of Michael Pittman, Mike Williams, and Garrett Wilson? You need to start one of those 3. Please, are you going to go Michael Pittman, Mike Williams, or Garrett Wilson. One of those three, let me know who you're starting. And also, while you're down there spamming the chat, letting me know that, drop a like on this live stream. We are 1 like away from hitting 600 likes on the stream. Does help us out a ton when you go down there and hit that like button. Okay. So it's Mike Williams, Mike Williams, Mike Williams, Mike Williams. It looks like everybody's starting Mike Williams here. I mean, I would say it would have been Garrett Wilson easily if we had Mike White starting, but I'm not going to follow you if you wanted to go Mike Williams when the Titans have allowed the most points to opposing wide receivers. Manny Fresh says, Mason, we're stuck again. I want to flex Dobbins over Zay Jones. What do you think in app PPR format? I personally would. I think Dobbins is a much better matchup. I know Zay Jones has been getting the volume. It is what it is. Give me a Mr. J.K. Dobbins. And Earl says, are we trusting Michael Pittman this week? Hell yes. Great matchup where the Vikings defense can't stop anybody. Cameron says we have the 101 in our Superflex Dynasty League. The owner of the 104, 109 really wants Bijan Robinson. What's the fair value for the 101? If we could trade the 101 for the 104 and a future first, I'm doing it. But keep in mind, I graduated from the University of Texas a few years ago, so hook 'em Lawrence. You know I'm rooting for our guy, Bijan Robinson, but I made it. If we can get the 104 and then a future first, you got to do it. Trouble 23 ATX says James Cook or Pierre Strong, Higgins, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Andrews or Schultz. I mean, easily Andrews over Schultz, easily T. Higgins or over Donovan Peoples-Jones. Between James Cook and Pierre Strong, it's tough because we don't know what's going to happen with Ramondre Stevenson. If you were to have no Ramondre Stevenson guaranteed, I think you go Pierre Strong over James Cook, but it would be marginal. And if Ramondre Stevenson ends up playing, then hell no, you can't play Pierre Strong. So just based off the uncertainty, I think we're probably going to end up. Yeah. I think we probably end up going with. Oh my gosh. James Cook, if we don't have official news about Ramondre Stevenson by the time we get to the Buffalo Bills kickoff. You'll have to continue to monitor, but unless we get that news, I think we're planning on going James Cook. Now, Arthur says, a full BBR, Allen or Burrow? Unless it's a blizzard at kickoff, we plan on Allen. If it is a blizzard, I'd be fine pivoting. Need a running back in a flex between Ramondre, Deontay, Pacheco, Garrett Wilson, Hollywood, and or DeAndre Swift. I think we plan on playing Ramondre Stevenson as well as Garrett Wilson. The issue is, what would our pivot option be? When is the game kicking off with the Chiefs? Is that a noon game or a 3 p.m. game? It's a noon game, right? Yeah, that's in Houston. Oh, dear God. I think we plan on Ramondre, Garrett Wilson, and send up a prayer that Ramondre Stevenson ends up playing. Of course, we're going to have to continue to monitor the situation. I mean, if we were looking at a running back not named Ramondre, I mean, our next best guy would be DeAndre Swift in that full PPR league. Now, Mr. Filthy Wub says, revise previous question. Are we going to go Lazard, Elijah Moore, or Jacoby Myers? Honestly, if Jacoby Myers plays a wide receiver 1 for the Patriots, we would go ahead. We would play Jacoby Myers over these other guys. DJ coming out with the donation. Thank you, my friend, for supporting the channel. I see we don't have a question with this, but thank you. And Ron says, Mason, my friend, need you once again. Have BBR leagues start Higgins or Godwin at wide receiver 2. If you're looking at our rankings this week, I mean, we literally have these guys pretty much back to back. I mean, I have Chris Godwin right now, wide receiver 14. We had T. Higgins, wide receiver 11. I mean, I really think it comes down to, are you comfortable with the T. Higgins hamstring? If you think Higgins hamstring is going to go, you play T. Higgins. And then also Andrews or Njoku at tight end. I'm going to go Andrews. He's been bad, but I mean, him being bad, still a tight end 2 in fantasy. Thanks for the advice, Stay Classy. No, thank you for being a member of the vlog, my man. David says, Njoku, Waddle, Elijah Moore, Pickens, or Rashad White, we got to flex 1. If the weather is not horrendous, we go Jalen Waddle. If at the time of kickoff, the weather is just the grossest thing you've ever seen, you can pivot over to Rashad White. Matthew says, having trouble with the lineup. We need 2 receivers running back in double flex. CMC already played. Our options are Waddle, Godwin, Olave, Garrett Wilson. I think we can go with Godwin and Olave, using the weather as a tiebreak away from Waddle and using quarterback play as a tiebreak away from Garrett Wilson. Our running back between Etienne Pacheco, we're going to go Etienne easily. And then for the double flex spots, we're just going to go right back to the wide receiver position. We are going to go ahead. We are going to be playing the combo of Waddle and Garrett Wilson. 20 says, should I start T and Ramondre this week or pivot to Olave and or Pittman? Zach Taylor's making it hard to trust my guy. I completely understand why. I mean, I am planning on starting T. Higgins. In leagues that I have T. Higgins in, I am planning on starting him. But I am an idiot. I said to start him last week, and look how that turned out. I think it is up to your risk tolerance. I agree. Zach Taylor's making it pretty damn hard when he's just pump faking us time and time again. He acts like fantasy football isn't even a thing. Come on, show us some respect here. And then if Ramondre Stevenson plays, we play Ramondre Stevenson, but we're going to have to monitor that. Benjamin says, in a 12-team Superflex League, full BBR format, we have Waddle, Kirk, Amari, Chubb, Godwin, James Conner, pick 4. We're going to be going with James Conner getting every snap out of his backfield. We're going to be going with Amari Cooper, Nick Chubb as auto starts. And I think we go Godwin over Waddle now that we have the weather update with Buffalo. Yeah, let's go Godwin using the tiebreak with the weather of Waddle. Brady is my quarterback too. Should we go for the correlation? Not going to be thinking too much about that. Tough matchup. Thanks as always, Mason. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Yeah, not really thinking of actual starting lineup correlation outside of fantasy football drafts, or if it's like a Monday night game where you're saying, okay, we're down big, I need a massive spike week. Then we could start, making decisions to correlate our starting lineup. Now, our next question coming out from, I believe, Rod says, Tua, Huntley, or Matt Ryan. We're going to go ahead. We're going to be playing Tua unless the weather is horrendous. And honestly, I'm playing Tua regardless. John says, hey, Mason, full BBR. We're going to go Joshua Palmer or Gabe Davis. Thank you for supporting the channel, my friend. It's just so difficult. Every time we go, oh, if the weather, we don't really know right now. I would say we're probably going to be planning on going with Joshua Palmer unless it's sunny out there in Buffalo and you're fine for kickoff. Obviously, Palmer's a little less exciting when we have Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. I'm sorry, it's hard to answer these Buffalo-Miami questions. I think we're going to get a lot more information when we're there at kickoff. Lowell says, how BBR are we going to go Dobbins or Swift? We're going to go Dobbins over Swift, and then Watson or Kirk. I will go Kirk Cousins over Deshaun Watson. Cole says, PBR, need a wide receiver 2 in a flex between Judy, Pittman, Godwin, and Garrett Wilson. Wide receiver 2, I think we're going to be playing Chris Godwin. And then for that flex spot, we will go Garrett Wilson. You have no Corey Davis. I know it's bad quarterback play, but it's a great matchup against Detroit. Popular picks to start Olave over Garrett Wilson in an 8-team PPR format. If you're worried about Zach Wilson under center, I think it's completely fine. I had our wide receiver rankings of Garrett Wilson at 13, Chris Olave at 15 when Mike White was starting. Now that Mike White's out, I think you can make the pivot if you want. Carlos says flex Ramondre Stevenson or Donovan Peoples-Jones. If Ramondre Stevenson plays, you go Ramondre. You're going to have to continue to monitor going until tomorrow, though. Patrick says hurt Ramondre or Amari Cooper for the flex spot. If Ramondre Stevenson plays, we play Ramondre Stevenson. That will be something we have to continue to monitor. Jay Shack says Herbert or Fields. I think we are going to go with we're going to go Justin Herbert over Justin Fields. It's close. If I'm pulling up my quarterback rankings this week, we have Herbert at 4, Fields at 6. Just a great matchup going up against the Titans for Herbert. Horrible matchup going up against the Eagles for Fields. We also have Kamara, Aaron Jones, Rachaad White, Juju, Waddle. Pick 2 running backs, a receiver, and a flex. We're down 25-13. Lockett played Kittle and Seattle defense. Okay, so I think we're going to go Kamara, Aaron Jones at running back. Our receiver, we're going to be going with Waddle. And our flex, we are going to go with Rachaad White over Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, John says, pick 4 in a full BBR league. Gabe Davis, Etienne, Chris Moore, Pickens, Deontay Foreman, Pacheco, Rachaad White, Latavius, and David Njoku. 1 receiver, 1 running back spot, 2 flex, 4 players to input. Okay, so if we're going to be looking at this, I think our running back has to be Etienne, playing 90% of the snaps in Jacksonville, even in a tough matchup. Our wide receivers going to end up being, I'm not too excited about it, but I guess George Pickens. Y'all know George Pickens was a sell high guy for us earlier this season after some highlight grabs because there's not much of volume in Pittsburgh. There's a lot of target competition with Deontay Johnson. But, I mean, I'm not playing Chris Moore. I freaking refuse to do so. And then for our flex spots, we're going to be going back to the running back position. We will play the combo of Isaiah Pacheco and Latavius Murray in a full PPR league. Now, Haji says, start 2 in a full PPR format. Evans, Watson, Judy. Also start 1 between Dobbins, Rachaad White, or David Montgomery. We're going to go Dobbins over those running backs in a great matchup against Cleveland. And then for our 2 receivers, we're going to go with Mike Evans and Jerry Judy. I really hope Christian Watson outscores them. I truly do. With how many leagues I have Christian Watson in compared to those other guys. But I think it's hard to imagine him continuing to dominate to the level he has with the volume he's received. Now, dab my Corona. Always happy to have you out. Says, optimal starts, Lamb, Olave, Eckler, David Montgomery, Chris Godwin, Rachaad White, Hollywood, Chark, Elijah Moore, Goddard. Who on the list is droppable? Much appreciated. If we had to drop someone off this list, it would be DJ Chark with the expectation that you actually get Jameson Williams expanding his role in Detroit. Our 2 starting wide receivers are going to be Lamb, Godwin. Our 2 starting running backs are going to be Eckler, White, and then our flex spot is going to be, I believe, Chris Olave in a good matchup. Now, Ricky says, PPR, Deshaun Watson or Tyler Huntley. I'm going to go Deshaun Watson over Tyler Huntley. I mean, my brain is broken. The rushing upside is obviously going to favor Huntley. You have Vegas favoring the Cleveland Browns. I mean, against Baltimore, you kind of want to be throwing the ball rather than running it. Not the easiest spot in the world, though. And then start 2 between Dobbins, Hollywood, Rachaad White, and DJ Moore. We're going to be going with the combo of J.K. Dobbins easily because against the Browns, you're actually going to go out there and you're going to run the ball. And then we're also going to be going with Rachaad White in a full PPR format. Kevin says, because of the snow, should we go Olave or Hollywood over Tyreek Hill? Hell to the no. Please do not overthink that. Please play Tyreek Hill, my friend. Chris Allin says, start a receiver in a flex in a full PPR league. We have a Bam Knight, Brian Robinson, Leonard Fournette, Damian Harris, Gabriel Davis, Alec Pierce, Paris Campbell, Mike Evans, Chris Moore, and Gabriel Davis again. Okay, I think our wide receiver is going to end up being Mike Evans. Evans has been horrendous as of late. He has had some pretty tough matchups. I mean, obviously, you had to assume that you were going to get a dud game from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this past week whenever you had them going up against the best defense in the NFL in the San Francisco 49ers. I think it'll be better now. And if we're going to be looking at our flex, I think we probably end up going in the direction of just playing Bam Knight. You know what? Bam Knight compared to Leonard Fournette in a full PPR format will be somewhat close. If I'm pulling up my rankings for that full PPR league, we have Fournette at 23, Bam Knight 26. Let's go Fournette. Especially if we have Zach Wilson in, because if Zach Wilson's in here, I think we can assume the Bucs probably score more points than the Jets. Okay. Now, Christian says, thinking about taking a shot and starting Donovan Peoples-Jones over T. Higgins at wide receiver 2. What do you think? Full PPR, Higgins hamstring scares me a bit. Completely understand why you would do this. If you did this last week, it would have been the right decision, and I would have told you not to do it. If you would have asked me this last week, I'd have said, no, you got to play T. Higgins, and I would have been wrong. I'm going to say the same thing this week. I'm going to say, no, you got to play T. Higgins, but hell, there's a good shot I'm wrong again. Charles says, a full PPR, Etienne, Bam Knight, and Andrews and Frymuth. I'm going to go Etienne over Bam Knight, and we're going to go Mark Andrews over Pat Frymuth. Now, Dab Corona coming out says, non-PPR, 2 running backs. Okay, non-PPR. Let me go back and double check that. Non-PPR, if you wanted to pivot over from Rachaad White to David Montgomery, I'd be fine, but our answer stands otherwise. And Jose coming out, thank you, says, quarterback, Mac Jones or Tua Tagovailoa. I think we are going to go with Tua here. I mean, if we're going to be looking at the implied team totals, obviously the Patriots are going to be trying to run the ball every shot they get. The Pats are projected to score about 21 points, according to Las Vegas, where the Dolphins are sitting there at 18. But I think you just get the Miami Dolphins throwing the ball a little bit more. And then with Stevenson hurt, who are we plugging in between Dobbins, Rachaad White, or DeAndre Swift? I think we will end up going with J.K. Dobbins in a very good matchup. But, I mean, if Ramondre Stevenson were to play, I think you're going to have to go through. I think that you are going to end up having to play Ramondre Stevenson. Robert says, should I start Josh Allen with the weather? Hell yes, please play Josh Allen. Gets knowledge of Sup Bro, Gabriel Davis or Elijah Moore, Watson or Goff. I'm going to go Goff over Watson. And the between Gabe Davis and Elijah Moore really does depend on the snow here. I'm probably going to go Gabe Davis unless it's a full-blown blizzard, unless it's the nastiest snow game you've ever seen. But the issue with Elijah Moore is obviously he's playing well behind Garrett Wilson. And on top of it, you have Zach Wilson under center here. Now, Ant coming out says, how PPR format? We need one. We have Dobbins, Pittman, Rachaad White, Gabe Davis. I think we're going to end up going with your call between Michael Pittman and Dobbins. I mean, Michael Pittman, Dobbins both have phenomenal matchups. I would say Dobbins is a little more touchdown upside. And then between Dak or Tua, I think that we are going to end up going with Dak Prescott due to the weather in Buffalo. Gets knowledge says, I'm back. Are we going to go Watson, Tua, or Trevor Lawrence? Given the weather that we have in Buffalo, I think we are going to end up going with Trevor Lawrence over Tua. If you're looking at our quarterback rankings, previously we had Tua at 8, Lawrence at 10. I think it's an easy spot to just flip 2 quarterbacks. I still want to monitor this weather all the way up until kickoff because obviously things can change. But at the time that we are recording this, it's not looking too good. Okay. Now, our next question coming out from A Tribe Called Nev says, how PBR first round playoffs need help with the running backs? We have Pacheco, Knight, Rachaad White, Latavius, Travis Etienne, pick 3. We are going to be going with the combo of Etienne easily, Isaiah Pacheco in a plus matchup, as well as, oh my gosh, we'll go Rachaad White. I kind of want to be moving Bam Knight down a little bit, just given the fact that you have Zach Wilson in here. I think we have to lower our expectations in general with the New York Jets. Now, Cody says, morning, sir, tough playoff situation. Assume Ramondre and Myers are out. Do we pivot to Pierre Strong or Kevin Harris or Kendrick Bourne? Don't plan on starting Jacoby Myers. Like, if you would have to pivot to an option, I think Myers probably plays, but I am not pivoting over to Kendrick Bourne whatsoever. I think if we had to go through and start a running back, I would go Pierre Strong over Kevin Harris. Now, Ruffle says, pick 3, full PBR, Olave, Zay Jones, Garrett Wilson, and Bam Knight. We're going to go with Olave, Garrett Wilson, and Bam Knight. Very tough matchup for Zay Jones going up against Dallas. And we start Tyler Conklin this week over Freiermuth. Thanks, Vlog. No, thank you. And now that we have Freiermuth fully back from the injury and fully cleared, we will go Freiermuth. And now Jacob says, do we play Peoples, Jones, White, or wait to see what happens with Stevenson and play Pierre Strong at the flex? I would wait to see what happens with Stevenson. If Stevenson's a game time decision and we don't have all the clarity by the time we get to noon kickoff tomorrow, I would roll the dice that Ramondre Stevenson plays if you have that backup pivot option. And then also, should I risk playing Goddard over Dalton Schultz? What time is that game kicking off? That has to be a 1 p.m. game, right? Yeah. So, I mean, if Dallas Goedert's in, I play Dallas Goedert over Dalton Schultz. With how damn good the Philadelphia Eagles offense is, I want every piece of it I can get. Steve says, need to fill 3 spots in a non-PBR format. We need 2 RBs and a flex between Sanders, Pacheco, Connor, Garrett Wilson, and Dobbins. Flock rules, plan for first. Help me with some player props. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, my friend. I truly do appreciate you. And if we're going to be looking at this, I think we're going to go Miles Sanders, James Conner, and J.K. Dobbins. Usually I'd be playing Garrett Wilson here, but in that non-PPR format, I think we bump up the RBs. And if you're looking for some player props, these are some that I like this week. And of course, you can check out all these player props on Underdog. Link in the live chat, link in the description, promo code FLOG, 100% deposit match. Okay, so I really like the Joe Mixon at 59.5 rushing yards. In the same game, I like Rachaad White for less than 72.5 total yards. So Mixon for more than 59 rushing yards, Rachaad White for less than 72.5. Now, Delusional Trainer says, PPR start 2 for the flex. Rachaad White, Bam Knight, T. Higgins, and Zay Jones. Full PPR format, I'm going to play it on T. Higgins as well as Rachaad White, but keep in mind there is risk with the T. Higgins hamstring. Kevin coming out, thank you, says, what's up, Mason? I have a weird feeling Aaron Rodgers is going to make a strong push towards the end of the year here. Picked up Lazard. Should we start him over White or Higgins? It got burned last week. I know Higgins did burn us all last week, but I mean, I'm going right back to the Higgins well. I am willing to play him. This coaching staff's telling us he's good to go. They're telling us he's good to go. I mean, hell, I guess I kind of just have to listen to him here. What else are we supposed to go off of? And I think that honestly, Rodgers can make a push at the end of the season with how good this schedule is shaping up to be. Precision Building says, happy BR, we need a flex. Paris Campbell, George Pickens, DJ Chark, and Darius Slayton. I think that we're going to end up going and playing George Pickens. I know a lot of people are going to say DJ Chark, but the issue with Chark is I think Jameson Williams expands his role, and it's a tough matchup going up against the Jets. Robert says, I'm waiting to see if Goddard's playing tomorrow. Who should we start between Chris Moore, Tutu Atwell, or Ben Skoranek? Oh, if we had to pick a name here, I'm going to go Chris Moore. If we had to, we'll go Moore. Obviously, Houston's going to have to throw the ball against the Kansas City Chiefs, but it's not an exciting spot. Blake says, Sanders, Dobbins, McKinnon, Dillon, pick 2. I think we're going to go ahead. We're going to play Miles Sanders and J.K. Dobbins. Sanders in an elite offense and Dobbins in a great matchup. Thomas says, should I bench Waddle this week for any of these guys? Full PBR. The weather's worrying me. Bam Knight, Evans, T. Higgins, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Singletary, Rashad White, or James Cook. If the weather is very bad at kickoff, completely fine with you pivoting over to T. Higgins. I understand that you're worried with the hamstring. The coaching staff is telling us that we're good to go. The coaching staff is saying that T. Higgins is just fine. That's going to be the case. I tend to want to believe them. Peter says, do we start Donovan Peoples-Jones and we also have Amari or Chris Moore? We're going to roll out Donovan Peoples-Jones and Amari Cooper. I guess we're going all in on Cleveland here. Ron says bench one out of Higgins, Godwin, or Tyreek Hill in the snow. I mean, I think we're going to bench T. Higgins out of these guys. If you were worried about the hamstring, please, even if it's snowing in Buffalo, you have to go through and play Tyreek Hill. Jack says Dobbins or Brian Robinson. I'm going to go J.K. Dobbins. I think he's a better running back in a very good offense and a great matchup. Chuck says, pick 3 in a full BBR league. Godwin, Peoples-Jones, Waddle, Devonta Smith. Also, you get your ears lowered. Nice. I guess so, my friend, but thank you. And yeah, we are going to go ahead. We're going to be going with Godwin, Donovan. I'm sorry. We're going to go Godwin, Waddle, Devonta Smith, bench, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Even though I do like the matchup against Baltimore, obviously against this Baltimore Ravens defense, you are looking to go through and you are looking to throw the ball. Okay. Now, our next question coming out from, I believe, Brian says, full BBR start Evans, Pickens, Michael Carter, Gibson at the second flex. I think we are going to go ahead. We're going to end up playing Mike Evans. Evans hasn't been that good. He says, scared I'm overthinking Evans. After all, it is Eli Apple. He has been very bad, but also he's had some pretty tough matchups. Like Mike Evans has been put in difficult positions this past week. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are coming off a game where they had to play the toughest defense in the entire NFL. I think we go Evans over these guys. And Joseph says, Juju, Swift, Elijah Moore, happy BR, thank you. No, thank you for supporting the channel. I think we are going to end up going with DeAndre Swift. Don't love the matchup against the Houston Texans for Juju. They're not going to have to throw the ball. Trailer says, no CeeDee Lamb to the last question. Okay, let me reevaluate your last question, my friend. Okay, I am so sorry. No, yes, we are starting CeeDee Lamb. I misread this. We're going to go ETN. I'm sorry. We're going to go Kamara, JT at running back. Lamb, AJ Brown at wide receiver. And then for the flex, we're going to be going with ETN and Keenan. I'm sorry if we misread that question. I mean, some of those names, like it's just JT and CD slammed right next to us, right next to each other. And it's just those 4 letters. It's kind of easy to overlook, as dumb as that sounds. Okay. But now our next question coming out from, I believe, Yacht from Grand TV says, Brady, Goff, or Fields. We're going to go Justin Fields. Hate the matchup going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. I think you actually have Chicago struggling in a big way here. Justin Fields probably not going to be good. I mean, hell, you don't have Chase Claypool. You don't have Darnell Mooney. I don't see how he could possibly be good from a real life standpoint with the passing volume and making the Chicago Bears offense fine. But in reality, it just doesn't really matter. Because at the end of the day, if you're a quarterback and you're able to get to 75 rushing yards, it's such a big deal. Now, YB says, start 2 in a PBR format. Hopkins, Brian Robinson, Dobbins, and Pacheco. We're going to go Hopkins and J.K. Dobbins, my friend. And come Arthur says, Watson or Goff? I'm going to go Goff, despite it being a very tough matchup against the Jets. Zach Wilson scares me from Goff. Yeah, I guess if you assume that this is going to be a blowout game where you end up getting, Zach Wilson with a bunch of turnovers and the Detroit Lions or able to run the ball in the second half. I understand why you would think that. But right now, if we go pull up the line on this Jets game versus Detroit Lions, the Jets are favored by a point. So I'm not going to be too concerned. Now, Gets Knowledge says, if Stevenson is out, do we go Strong or A.J. Dillon? I would go A.J. Dillon if Ramondre Stevenson was out. I mean, with Pierre Strong, I think they would end up splitting the backfield, turn it into a running back by committee. I think Dillon's going to be playing in a better offense this week with the Packers against the Rams. Kinger coming out and says, hey, Mason, PBR for the flex. We're going to go Dobbins, Knight, or Christian Kirk. Full PBR format, obviously, Dobbins not going to catch the ball where Kirk will. But I think we are going to end up going with Dobbins. It's a very strong matchup against the Cleveland Browns. And it looked very good this past week. Okay. Now our next question coming out from, I believe, Gabriella says, need 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and a flex between Dalvin, Brian Robinson, Pacheco, Najee, Waddle, Devonta Smith, T. Higgins, in a full BBR format. Thanks. So thank you for supporting the channel. I think at running back, we're going to end up going with Dalvin Cook as well as Najee Harris. At receiver, we're going to be going with T. Higgins and Jalen Waddle, unless there's a full-blown blizzard. And then at that point, we would pivot off of Waddle to Devonta Smith. And then in that full BBR league, we will plan on Smith in the flex. But if we have to pivot off of Waddle, if there is that full blizzard, we will pivot over to the running back position at Isaiah Pacheco. So right now, plan on benching Brian Robinson and Pacheco. If we had to play one, we pick Pacheco. Now, Kruger coming out says, do we start Pittman or wait to see if Ramondre plays? If it's a full BBR format, you probably start Pittman if we don't have clarity at Ramondre Stevenson by the time we get to kickoff. But it's just the toughest spot to be in, of course. Now, Ginger coming out says, Diggs in bad weather or Olave. Please go Diggs regardless of the weather. Joel says, what's your dynasty startup? When is your next dynasty startup draft fit? I'll get you one this week, my friend. Scooter says, Garrett Wilson or T. Higgins, please, in a full PBR format. I'm going to go T. Higgins. I'm not going to be too worried about the hamstring, but I'm an idiot. Daniel says, nice haircut, looking fresh. Thank you. Do we start Tyreek in a blizzard against the Bills or Keenan Allen against the soft Titans defense in good weather or half PPR? I'm starting Tyreek Hill regardless of the weather. Regardless of what the weather is, you start Tyreek, you start Stephon Diggs. We can reevaluate our Jalen Waddle take based off the weather, but those 2 elite level wide receivers, you got to play regardless. Now, real quick, we are 1 like away from hitting 800 likes in this live stream. Please, if you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like in the stream, help us get to 800. And Chris says, in a happy BR format, pick 1. Stevenson, Aguilar, Isaiah Hodges, Jameson Williams, Tyler Algier. We will plan on going to Ramondre Stevenson easily here. If he doesn't play, just pivot over to an option playing later that day. Sidekick says, we need some help and need to start 2 of 3. Bam Knight, Brian Robinson, or Barkley in a standard league. We're going to be planning on going with a Saquon Barkley and Brian Robinson if it's a non-PPR format. We already have Taylor as RB1. Yeah, definitely keep Taylor at RB1. With Barkley, I think you'd be a little bit concerned based on the matchup, based on how Barkley and the Giants offense has struggled as of late. But come on, it is what it is. Now, Angel says, do I start Waddle, Chark, Zay Jones, or Chris Moore as my wide receiver 2 semifinals championship round? I think we're going to go ahead. We're going to be playing Jalen Waddle. Like, I understand the weather is worrisome. And like I said, if it's Jalen Waddle versus Amari Cooper, Jalen Waddle versus Chris Godwin, Jalen Waddle versus one of these respectable wide receivers, I'm fine pivoting off of Jalen Waddle given the weather. But if it comes to Jalen Waddle versus DJ Chark, if we're getting that scared based off the weather to pivot off of Waddle for an option like that, I think at the end of the day, it probably is just overthinking it. Now, John says, a full PBR, we're going to go Dobbins or Aaron Jones. I think we are going to go Aaron Jones in a full PBR format where he will catch the ball out of the backfield and you won't have Dobbins with that passing down role. Now, Alex says, a full PBR, Watson, Higgins, Dobbins, Knight, or Stevenson in the flex. If this is Christian Watson, it's really nice because we can plan on going Ramondre Stevenson in the flex spot. And if he doesn't play at 3 p.m. on Sunday, then we can pivot over to Christian Watson on Monday night. Pedro says, are we going to go with the Saints defense? Hell yes, play the Saints defense. Great spot where they are favored by, I believe, about 4.5 points against Atlanta. No, it's only 4 points. I apologize. But obviously, there's, a very high ceiling with the Saints defense going up against Desmond Ridder for the first time ever. Now, Dante coming out says, Christian Watson, Amari Cooper, Nick Chubb, ETN. We need 3 guys, bro. We're going to go with ETN, Chubb, and Amari Cooper. I really hope, really hope Christian Watson outscores one of these players. With all the best ball leagues I have Christian Watson in. Probably not going to happen, though. We got to be realistic. Chubb and ETN are projected the same amount. I think the Ravens' run defense will be stiffer than Dallas's. I don't really care. You start all of them. I mean, if that player is going to get a guaranteed 15 touches out of their backfield with upside for like 25, where Christian Watson, we're hoping that we get 4 receptions, I think you got to take the running back. Okay, so now Julian says 1 to flex with no Stevenson, Strong, DJ Moore, or Joshua Palmer, Stevenson, Moore, or Palmer. Thanks, love the channel. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. So if Stevenson does not play, pivot over to DJ Moore. If Stevenson plays, we play Ramondre Stevenson regardless, even if you would assume that his role would be a little bit smaller than usual. Okay. Now, Tyler says, PBR, we need a receiver and a flex. We have Christian Watson, Garrett Wilson, Rachaad White, David Montgomery. Zach Wilson really scares me. He sucks, but love the channel. Keep going. No, thank you so much for supporting the channel, my friend. I agree. Zach Wilson scares me as well, but Las Vegas Sportsbooks had this as a game where the Jets were favored by 1 point, and then Mike White was ruled out, and then the Jets were favored by 1 point. Like, nothing changed. I mean, it actually went to where the Lions were favored for a half second, then it split right back. So it's a tough spot. I think you still got to plan on playing Garrett Wilson. And then honestly, I think that Christian Watson probably has the ceiling. Let's go both wide receivers here. I think that they have low floors but high ceilings. It's still a very good matchup for Garrett Wilson going up against the Lions. Edgardo says, we lost Kyler. Who are we starting between Lawrence and Huntley? Hate the matchup for Lawrence, but with how good he's been over the past month, you have to start him. The Hot Nickel says, Hollywood or Zay Jones. I do not like the matchup for either guy. I'm actually probably going to go Hollywood. And is Ramondre Stevenson going to play? Right now, we have no idea. He did practice on Friday, which is encouraging. I just don't know, my friend. Freddie says, my dude, week 15, let's go. Lost Lamar Stevenson. We got Dobbins and Fields from the waiver wire. Rest of season, should I start Tua or Fields? We're going to be going with Justin Fields, assuming it's that 4-point passing touchdown league. Dobbins, Swift, or Rachaad White. We are going to be going with Dobbins this week in a full BBR format. I think we can go through and we can reevaluate the following. We're saying it's actually a 6-point passing touchdown league. And if it's a 6-point passing touchdown league, I think we got to bump Justin Fields down just a bit in comparison to Tua. But we still play Justin Fields when the man could get to 70 rushing yards any given week. Okay. Now, Josh says Pacheco, Knight, Dobbins, or Whites, PBR, or honestly considering starting both Dobbins and Gus, but I'm not a smart man. I'm not a smart man either, my friend, but I'd say it's probably a pretty bad idea. I think that we play Dobbins and Rachaad White with Gus Edwards. He'll never catch the ball out of the backfield. I think Rachaad White crushes him in total yardage, and obviously he's going to get the receptions as well. I think we play Dobbins and White. Antonio says Carr or Dalton in a super flex. Dalton has the much better matchup, but Dalton's been so damn bad. Honestly, I'd probably go Derek Carr, even if he's going up against the New England Patriots. Like, with Derek Carr, at least you're in a spot where you don't have to worry about Taysom Hill vulturing touchdowns inside the red zone. And then Gabe Davis, Chris Moore, or Bam Knight. We need 2 in a full PPR format. I'll go Gabe Davis and Bam Knight unless we get to kickoff and it's a full-blown blizzard in Buffalo. Then we'll reevaluate. But I really don't want to be starting Chris Moore anywhere. Now, Gorilla says pick 3, Juju, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Christian Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, and Garrett Wilson. We're going to go Hopkins, Christian Watson, and Garrett Wilson. And I'm going to speed up these questions a bit just so we don't miss any. And Josiah says, starter running back receiver in a flex. Swift, Whites, Wilson, Judy, Gallup. I assume you'll say Swift, Wilson, Judy, but I love the input. Mason knows best. I do not know best, my friend, but thank you for the confidence in me. And yes, you know exactly where we're going. We're going to go Swift, Garrett Wilson, and Jerry Judy. Even if the wide receivers have horrendous quarterback play. They're talented players, and at the end of the day, no target competition in great matchups. And Craig says, have BBR, need a running back, 2 receivers, and a flex. We have Williams, Olave, Garrett Wilson, Dobbins, Montgomery, Brian Robinson. Cheers, pal. Cheers, my friend. Thank you for supporting the channel. I think our running back, we're going to be going with J.K. Dobbins. Our 2 wide receivers, we're going to go Mike Williams, Chris Olave. And then for that flex spot, we are going to indeed end up playing Garrett Wilson, even if it's a horrendous offense. Now, Nevok coming out says playoffs are 2 round, currently down by 40. We need the highest ceiling players possible. Hill, Waddle, Christian Watson, Garrett Wilson, as well as Michael Pittman. If we need the highest ceiling possible, I think we really need to send up a prayer that it does not snow that bad in Buffalo tonight during the game. I think that honestly, I kind of want to get some correlation in this lineup. If we want correlation in the lineup, I think we go Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And then we're going to go Garrett Wilson as well. I think Garrett Wilson has a very low floor with Zach Wilson under center. But if Zach Wilson could just provide, good it doesn't have to be great. Just good quarterback play this week and just be good. Just be respectable. Garrett Wilson could crush in a phenomenal matchup. Now, Caesar says, 2 questions in a PPR format. Can we trust Adam Thielen versus the Colts and Nelson Aguilar versus Chuba Hubbard at the flex? Obviously, it depends on the comparison for Adam Thielen on if we can trust them. Can we trust Adam Thielen to outscore Nelson Aguilar and Chuba Hubbard? Hell to the yes. And if I had to choose one of those guys for the flex spot, we would go Nelson Aguilar if we can't go Adam Thielen. Now, Conquer Libra says a full PPR Thielen, Gabe Davis, and Brian Robinson for the flex. We are going to go Brian Robinson, even if in a full PPR format, I'm a little less excited about it. Angel says, need help at wide receiver 2. Are we going to go Waddle, Chark, Zay Jones, Chris Moore, Richard James, or Nelson Aguilar? Go Jalen Waddle. Go Jalen Waddle. Let's do it, my friend. Jay Shaq says, so I messed up the question earlier. Fields or Herbert in a 4-point passing touchdown league? We will go Herbert. Running backs are Kamara, Aaron Jones. Receivers are Lockett, Hopkins. We need a flex out of Rashad White, Waddle, and Juju Smith-Schuster. I think we are going to end up going with Jalen Waddle unless we get to kickoff and the weather is horrendous. It is a full-blown blizzard. If that is the case at kickoff, then at that point, we can pivot off of Jalen Waddle over to Rashad White. It is very difficult to answer these Waddle questions when we are this far away from kickoff and we don't know exactly what the weather is going to be like. So let's plan on going with Herbert at quarterback, Waddle at the flex spot, and if the weather is apocalyptic bad, then we'll pivot over to Rashad White. Now, our next question coming out from, I believe, Caesar says, quarterback, Burrow or Fields? We are going to go ahead. We're probably going to end up taking Joe Burrow, my friend. Just hate the matchup for Justin Fields. And we need 3 receivers from Lamb, Higgins, Godwin, Watson, Evans. We're going to go Lamb, Higgins, Godwin. I'm not as concerned about the Higgins hamstring as other people. We need a running back 2, Montgomery, Hunt, or Akers. We're going to go David Montgomery. Tight end, Austin Hooper or Juwan Johnson in a 12-team full PPR format. Thanks, Space. No, thank you. Hooper led his team in receiving this past week. It's a fine matchup, and you have no Traylon Burks, so I'll be fine if you wanted to go Hooper. James says, Dobbins on B-Day, Olave, Montgomery, pick one flex. I think we are going to end up, if it's a full PPR format, going Olave in a great matchup against the Atlanta Falcons. If it is not a full PPR format, I think instead we can go ahead and we can pivot back over to J.K. Dobbins. And Reverse SF says, what's up, man? I have Ramadre, which most likely won't play. My other flex options are Etienne, Dobbins, Bam Knight, Pittman, and Higgins. Torn on who to put in. This is a full PPR format. Okay. I'm sitting here really thinking about this. I think we're going to end up going with Travis Etienne. And then T. Higgins in a full PPR league. Dobbins obviously in a great matchup, but Dobbins may not catch a single ball out of the backfield. I like T. Higgins. I really do. Obviously, it's frustrating with a hamstring. Sidekick says, need to start a running back 2 in a flex. Brian Robinson, Barkley, or Bam Knight. We're going to go with the combo of Saquon Barkley and Bam Knight. JT's the running back 1, standard league. Thank you for supporting the channel, my friend. Y says, who to flex between Pickens, Elijah Moore, Akers, and DJ Chark? Actually going to go ahead. We're going to play Cam Akers there. In says, PPR, Godwin locked in, but is there any reason to start Donovan Peoples-Jones over Garrett Wilson or Amari? No, sir. I think you leave it as is. Let's go with Garrett Wilson, Amari, as well as Chris Godwin. But thank you for being a long-time member of the flock, my man. Really happy that you made it to the playoffs. Joshua says, full PPR first round of the playoffs. Opponent has Allen, Mixon, CMC, Barkley, Chase, and Juju. Need to maximize some upside. Lawrence over Deshaun Watson. I currently have Lawrence ranked over Deshaun Watson. Donovan Peoples-Jones over Garrett Wilson with Mike White out. No, I personally would go with Garrett Wilson over Donovan Peoples-Jones. Great matchup against the Detroit Lions, even if Zach Wilson's under center. God, thanks for all you do. No, thank you so much for supporting the channel and being a part of the flock, my man. I really hope that you have a great day today. Really hope that everybody here has a phenomenal weekend. And Joey says, a full BBR pick 2, Etienne, Najee, and Bam Knight. We're going to go Etienne, Najee here. It's relatively easily, my friend. Dipset says, Olave, Higgins, benching Jamal Williams, Rashad White, have PBR. Unclear if Quinnen Williams is playing. Play it safe and avoid the 0 from T. Higgins. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to be keeping it as is. I think you play T. Higgins, my friend. I mean, I understand that T. Higgins is a massive question mark. He literally gave you 0 points this past week, which is terrifying. And I was dumb enough to play T. Higgins in all my leagues and tell everybody to play T. Higgins. I'm doing it again. I'm doing it again. I'm not learning my lesson. Jeremy says, who should we start for a wide receiver 2 and 3? We got Zay Jones, Elijah Moore, Joshua Palmer, or Isaiah McKenzie. I think we're going to end up playing the combo of Joshua Palmer as well as Zay Jones. No interest in Elijah Moore with Zach Wilson under center. Jim the Kid says Dobbins, Deontay Foreman, or Najee Harris for the flex spot. Full BBR format, we go Najee Harris. Anything less, we go J.K. Dobbins. Trone says need 2 running backs, a wide receiver, and a flex between Barkley, Etienne, Amari, Godwin, Rashad White, Fournette, Pierre Strong. If Stevenson's out, Amari Cooper plays today. Okay, so I think our 2 running backs, we are going to go with a Barkley, Etienne. Our wide receiver, we're going to be going with Amari Cooper. Our flex, we're going to go Godwin. We're not going to overthink it, my friend. I mean, if Pierre Strong is the starting running back in New England, I think he is going to be split in the backfield at the end of the day. And now, next question coming out from the Noctorious one says, should we play Goddard, Freiermuth, or Cole Kmet in a PPR format? If Goddard's the guy, we're going with Dallas Goedert. If he's good to go, you play Dallas Goedert. If not, Pat Freiermuth would be our second option. Lion says Watson, Hollywood, Dobbins, Judy, London, Deontay. We got to play 2. Okay, so I think we are going to end up going with Jerry, Judy, and J.K. Dobbins, my friend. Praying to God that Christian Watson outscores these guys. I have Christian Watson in way more leagues, but Christian Watson at the same time just doesn't have the same type of volume. Christian Watson is just not getting the same volume as these players. Dylan says, I know you've probably answered a bunch about Tua, but Tua or Watson? Pick 2, Elijah Moore, Chris Moore, and Gabe Davis. And would you start Donovan Peoples-Jones over Chris Moore? Hell yes, Donovan Peoples-Jones over Chris Moore, my friend. Says, thanks, man. Appreciate it. No, thank you for being a member of the vlog. Thank you so much for always supporting the channel, my man. You know I appreciate you. And if we're going to be looking at Tua versus Deshaun Watson, and it's incredibly difficult to answer this right now. At the time that I am speaking of 11:36 in the morning, I'm going to plan on going Tua. But if we get to actual kickoff, we are looking at the TV screen and there is a goddamn blizzard on TV in Buffalo, then at that point we could pivot over to Deshaun Watson. It is very difficult to say this right now at 11:37 when we don't know exactly what the weather is going to be at kickoff. I plan on going Tua for now, and we're also going to be planning on going Elijah Moore and Gabe Davis. But like we said, make sure we turn on that TV screen. We look at what the weather is right before the game, and if we have that emergency, we can pivot over to from Gabe Davis to Chris Moore. And Brian says, in need of a running back, are we picking up Rex or Akers? I'm definitely going to go Akers, my friend. Not You says 2 running backs, a receiver, and a flex. We have Devonta Smith, Michael Pittman, Christian Watson, Gabe Davis. We are going to be going with the combo of... So, no, I'm sorry, we need 2 running backs. Stevenson, Bam, Pacheco, Pierre. Thanks, Vlog. No, thank you for supporting the channel. We're going to go Ramondre Stevenson and Isaiah Pacheco as the 2 starting running backs. If Ramondre Stevenson does not play, then at that point, I mean, if he's ruled out before the Jets game, we can pivot over to Bam Knight. If he's not, pivot over to Pierre Strong. And then for our wide receiver and our flex, at wide receiver, we're going to be going with Michael Pittman in a great matchup against Minnesota. And then for the flex spot, it's your call between Christian Watson and Devonta Smith. I mean, if you have Dallas Goedert in, Smith's going to take a small hit in his targets. Can everybody please spam the chat? We have over 1,000 people here. I really want your opinion. Are you playing Christian Watson or Devonta Smith? I'm really hoping Watson outscores him, but the volume is hard to get behind. Now, Devin says, love the videos, man. At tight end, are we going to go Andrews or Schultz? I'm going to go Andrews easily. Running back 2, are we going to go Montgomery, Brian Robinson, or Cam Akers? I'm going to go with Montgomery in a full PPR format, my friend. And checking the chat, we have Watson, Smith, Watson, Smith, Smith, Watson, Smith, Watson, 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 Smith, Smith, Watson. So it sounds like the chat's kind of split between Devonta Smith and Christian Watson here. Now, Benjamin says, full BBR running backs are Latavius and Sanders. Flex is either Donovan Peoples-Jones, Pacheco, or London. Does Pacheco go for flex or running back? We don't know what to do. If you wanted to start Pacheco over Latavius and then choose between Latavius or Donovan Peoples-Jones, I wouldn't fault you at all for that. It's really going to be down between those 3 players. Just make sure we definitely have Miles Sanders in here. Don't start London. It's going to be down between Donovan Peoples-Jones or one of those running backs for that flex. Leo says, hey, Mason, like the haircut. Thank you. Nervous about Hopkins. Would you get weird and start Aguilar or... No, hell no, hell no, hell no, hell no. Obviously, Hopkins not in a great spot. Going up with Colt McCoy as your quarterback against the toughest defense to opposing wide receivers in fantasy in the Denver Broncos. You have to be nervous. Obviously, he's drawing a tough matchup, but You still play DeAndre Hopkins. Please do not overthink this, my friend. And Beacon of God's Light, always happy to have you out. Says, we appreciate you, brother. Pick 2. We're going to go Pittman, Pacheco, Kirk, Watson, Hopkins. Need a quarterback as well off the waiver wire. Lamar out. Sat Gino against the Niners. Good call. Who do you feel could have a good week? Thank you. No, thank you. I think if we're looking at streaming quarterbacks, I think you can go ahead. You can first look to get Tyler Huntley for some rushing upside. I mean, we know that, hell, at the end of the day, if you can get 50 rushing yards, you're going to be just fine. If we're looking at other spots, I mean, right now, Andy Dalton and the New Orleans Saints are projected to score about 24 points according to Las Vegas sportsbooks. So I think Dalton is like a last-minute streaming option if you have to go in that direction. And then I think, honestly, it's going to be relatively easily to submit this starting lineup. I think we're going to be going with DeAndre Hopkins at one of these spots. And then for the other, it's going to be your call between Watson, Kirk, Pittman. Oh, dear freaking God. I think we are going to end up going with Michael Pittman. I think we were initially too low on our wide receiver rankings with Michael Pittman this week. And that if you look at that matchup going up against the Minnesota Vikings, I mean, literally the Vikings have allowed like 30 points per game over the past month. Now, NFL says a full PPR for the flex. We're going to go Waddle, Swift, or Rashad White. If it's a blizzard at the time of kickoff for Jalen Waddle, we go DeAndre Swift. If the weather looks like it's calmed down or the weather looks fine, we go Jalen Waddle. Ferris says start 2, Garrett Wilson, Etienne, and Olave. We're going to plan on going with Etienne and Olave now that we have Zach Wilson in there. And then Rod says Montgomery or Slayton in the flex in a full PPR format. We're going to go Montgomery pretty easily. Brandon says in an 8-team non-PPR format, if Stevenson plays, do we play him, Hopkins, or Garrett Wilson? Sucks that Murray and White are out. Definitely does. But I honestly, regardless of matchup, I'm going to plan on going with DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, I think Ramondre Stevenson would be close to Hopkins, but if Ramondre does play, we can assume that he is going to be somewhat limited. Now, Ollie coming out, thank you, says sit versus start some. Our waiver wire, we got 2 running backs, 2 receivers, 2 flexes. McKinnon, Gibson, Singletary, Cook, Burkhead, Tyreek, Higgins, Elijah Moore, Joshua Palmer, Dotson, Chark, Jamison, Chris Moore. Tight end, we have Frymuth, Ingram, and Greg Dulcich. I think at tight end, we are going to end up going with Pat Frymuth. Our 2 running backs, we're going to be going with the combo of Antonio Gibson and Devin Singletary. Our 2 receivers, we're going to go Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins. Our 2 flex spots, we're going to be going with Joshua Palmer and DJ Chark. Now, Isaiah says, I need help with wide receivers. So we have Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, T. Higgins, Devonta Smith. And then for the flex spot, do we start Chubb over any of these receivers? No, please play Chubb at the flex. And then for our 2 wide receiver spots, I'm going to plan on going Keenan Allen and T. Higgins. If you're worried about the hamstring, I wouldn't mind if you wanted to pivot off Higgins for Mike Williams in a great matchup. Dicer coming out. Always happy to see you. My man says, hey, nice haircut. Big problem. We got Mahomes, Chase, Pollard. Will not move them. Wide receiver 2, Judy, Amari, Garrett Wilson. I think we're going to end up going with Amari Cooper now that we have both Russ as well as Mike White out for Denver and New York. Running back 2, Pacheco, Montgomery, Aaron Jones, McKinnon, and Montgomery. I think you play Aaron Jones easily at running back 2. And then for that flex spot, we can actually go back to the wide receiver position, play Garrett Wilson. And then for DST, if we're going to be looking at Kansas City versus New England, I think we go Kansas City. They are favored by about 14.5 points going up against the Houston Texans, who arguably just have the worst team in the NFL. Now, I'm just there says, need 2 receivers between Watson, Mike Williams, and Tyreek Hill. I'm going to go Tyreek Hill and Mike Williams, my friend. Need 2 quarterbacks, Tua, Rodgers, and Lawrence. I'm going to go with Tua and Lawrence unless it is a full-blown blizzard in Buffalo at the time of kickoff. And at that point, if you wanted to pivot off the 204 Rodgers, I'd be fine with it. Or do I throw Josh Jacobs in at the flex instead of a quarterback? Honestly, we probably got to put a quarterback in that super flex spot. No idea how the hell Josh Jacobs wouldn't be one of your top 2 RBs, though. Okay. Now, Ruben says, a full BBR best flex, Garrett Wilson, Higgins, Najee, and either Watson or Lawrence at quarterback. We're going to go Lawrence over Watson at QB, and then receiver, we're going to be going with T. Higgins. Tyler says, please re-answer my previous question. We may have missed it. Okay, let me go ahead and let me pull this up, my friends. We need a wide receiver and a flex between Watson, Garrett Wilson, White, and Montgomery. Zach Wilson scares me, but love the channel. Keep grinding. No, thank you again. I think we add Christian Watson and Garrett Wilson as our answer there, my friend. And Josh says, happy BR format. Should I pull Goddard off IR and play this week or use Schultz or Njoku? I mean, if you're looking at my rankings here, I do have Dallas Goddard 1 spot ahead of David Njoku. I would be willing to pull him off the IR. That just says, for my other super flex, for wide receivers, we have Judy, Godwin, Mike Williams, Smith, Juju, tight end, Komet, or Njoku. We're going to go Njoku. Or should we wait to see if Goddard plays? Just play David Njoku. And then Dallas defense or Philly defense. Thanks. So thank you for supporting the channel. We're going to go with the Philly defense where they are 9-point favorites over Chicago. And then for our wide receivers, we're going to go with the combo of Jerry Jeudy and Chris Godwin there. Harrison says Rachaad White or Latavius Murray. I'm going to go with Rachaad White. Nathan says start to Najee, Pacheco, or Bam Knight. I'm going to go with Najee and Pacheco. Kaiser says Mac Jones, Tua, or Taylor Heineke. We're going to go Tua even in a bad weather game. Christopher says Huntley, Dalton, Matt Ryan, Tannehill, or Heineke. Who are we starting? 4-point passing touchdown format. We're going to go Tyler Huntley, even if Matt Ryan is a great matchup. I mean, with Huntley, you have some rushing upside, of course. Ollie says pick 2, Jeudy, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Swift, and Najee. I think we're probably going to end up going with the combo of Najee Harris and then maybe Jerry Jeudy. I think now that we have nobody at wide receiver in Denver, you could go Jeudy. Henry says, do we run the table and play Deshaun and bench Josh Allen because the weather isn't something I want to bet on? Single quarterback, full PPR format. I understand that you'd be worried about the weather, but I'm planning on going Josh Allen regardless, my friend. Anthony says, who the hell do we start? We got Wilson, Olave at wide receiver, and who would we put at the flex spot between Dobbins, Stevenson, Sanders, and whoever's left out of Wilson, Olave, Andrews, or Hollywood Brown? Okay, so I think that we are going to end up at wide receiver going Olave over Garrett Wilson now that Mike White is out. And then at the flex spot, I mean, I would love to roll the dice to see if we end up getting Ramondre Stevenson playing. But in reality, I think that if you have the possibility of just going through and playing Miles Sanders and taking those guaranteed points, you just got to take Miles Sanders and the guaranteed points you'll have against the Chicago Bears. Dentrick says David Njoku or Dalton Schultz. I go Njoku, and I don't think twice. Steel Breezen says Evans or Jeudy. I think honestly we can go Jeudy now that we have everybody out of Denver. Pacheco or Swift. Non-PPR we go Pacheco. Full PPR we go Swift. And then are we concerned about the Amari hip? I honestly think Amari's a must-start player. If we just look at the matchup, if we look at the game environment, I really like Amari. Now, Mahir says, pick 2. We got Olave, Amari, Higgins. I think we are going to end up going with Amari and Higgins, unless you're very concerned about the Higgins hamstring. Then at that point, you can pivot over to Olave. Olave is a very good matchup. Pick 1 between Dobbins, Brian Robinson, Swift. We go Dobbins in a good spot against Cleveland. And then pick 1 between Hawkinson and Conklin. Please play TJ Hawkinson in every league you have TJ Hawkinson in. Keith says, PBR, we need 2 of 3. Olave, Pittman, Evans. We're going to go ahead. We're going to be playing the combo of Olave and... Honestly, if you would have asked me earlier, I think we would have said Evans over Pittman. I think we were wrong. I think you got to go ahead. I think you have to play Pittman in a great matchup against Minnesota. Jackson says, who should we start at our 2 running backs currently in the Toilet Bowl? Need a win to avoid the Waffle House. Oh, dear God. Full BBR, Aaron Jones, Swift, Dylan Montgomery. After I filled the 2 running back spots, would you start any of those running backs over Kirk? I would not. I am wishing you the best of luck, my friend. Start Aaron Jones and DeAndre Swift in the full BBR format, but dear God, I am praying for you that you do not end up in that Waffle House. Ian says Ryan Tannehill or Tua in a full PBR 6-point passing touchdown league. We are going to go with Tua here, my friend. And 1 for the flex, Chris Moore, Cordell Patterson, or Bam Knight. I'm going to go with Bam Knight, worried that they're maybe going to face CPAT out a bit. Now, Kiro says T, Keenan, Hopkins, Watson. Pick a receiver in a flex. We're going to go Hopkins and then Keenan Allen at the flex spot. Took an L playing Ayuk, but also played CMC. Yeah, so it kind of washed out. Perry says Digger the kicker or a kicker I can't pronounce. We're going to go with Digger the kicker, my friend. I know nothing about kickers in the slightest, but I do know hook 'em horns. Brandon says, I must have missed the answer. 8-team non-PBR format. Are we going to go Stevenson, Hopkins, or Garrett Wilson? I'm sorry, my friend. We actually just did answer this. We are going to go ahead. We're going to take DeAndre Hopkins over these guys. R. Gravis says, how do we get the Jalen Hurts half player prop? I think, honestly, that's just the player prop for people who hadn't bet on a I don't know. Maybe if you had to get in a certain amount of underdog drafts, you got the Jalen Hurts player prop. That's why I haven't promoted it at all this week. I don't think everybody has it. And then Bam Knight or T. Higgins. We're going to go ahead. We're going to play T. Higgins. Brian says start Jerry Jeudy or Garrett Wilson at the flex. Ooh, I think we're going to go with Garrett Wilson. Very close with, I mean, all the injuries that you have in both their situations, but I still think we go Garrett in a great matchup. GK says, who would you rather have on your football and baseball team? Bo Jackson or Neon Dion? I mean, I think we go Neon Dion. I don't know, my friend. I don't know. And now Common Sense says, cheers to another great season, Mason. Happy that you've been a long time member of the flock, my man. Start Rodgers or Brady. I'm going to be going with Brady. 35 teams advanced in Best Ball Mania first playing. So not sure if that's good. Thank you for all the offseason summer fun. No, thank you so much for supporting the channel, my friend. I will say we had 49 teams advancing in Best Ball Mania. I guarantee you we had one of the best advance rates you're ever going to find. But our 3 most drafted players were Josh Jacobs at 1, Patrick Mahomes at 2, Jalen Waddle at 3. So, I mean, we actually kind of just crushed this season. I don't think anybody's going to be able to compare. Now, Cameron says 8-team PBR league, we have Hill, Diggs, Stevenson in the flex. Do we pivot to Godwin, Garrett Wilson, Zay Jones, or Chris Moore if there's a blizzard? I think that, honestly, no. I mean, if it was like Jalen Waddle, yeah, we would pivot off of Jalen Waddle to Chris Godwin, but you got to play Diggs. You got to play Hill regardless. Michael says Montgomery, Donovan Peoples-Jones, or London. Love the streams. Thank you, my friend. We are going to go with David Montgomery. Mark says, love the new cut. Looking clean, my G. Thank you. Need some help here this week. Need to pick 2 receivers in a flex between Waddle, Pittman, Judy, Juju, Mostert. Standard league. We have Mahomes, Kelsey stacked with Chubb and Bam Knight. Happy fantasy day, everyone. No, happy Saturday, my man. Thank you so much for obviously always being a member of the flock. I think we are going to end up probably going with Waddle, Pittman, Judy, bench Mostert, bench Juju. I have no idea what's going to go on with that Miami Dolphins game. Juju Smith-Schuster playing in a contest where they're not going to have to throw the ball against the Houston Texans. Pittman, great matchup. Judy, good matchup, as well as you have no Sutton, no Hamler, no Patrick, no Hinton. Now, VXXS Fluff says, start 3, Jacobs, Taylor, Mixon, Dobbins. So essentially, we just have to bench one of these guys. I love the matchup for Dobbins, but I think we actually will end up benching Dobbins here. Fruit Punch says, full BBR pick 2, Palmer, Chark, Gus, Edwards, Drake, London, James Cook. I think we are going to end up going with the combo of Joshua Palmer in a full BBR format, as well as DJ Chark. London maybe is a long-term option. Cameron says, round 1, we need in a 10-team BBR format, we need 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and a flex. Jefferson, Brown, Lamb, Godwin, Mixon, Barkley, Connor, Pacheco, and Dobbins. 2 wide receivers, we go Jefferson, A.J. Brown. 2 running backs, we go Mixon, Barkley for the flex spot. We will play James Conner over CeeDee Lamb, and Connor plays every single snap. Noah, always happy to have you out here. My man says Swift or J.K. Dobbins. We are going to go ahead. We are going to be playing J.K. Dobbins over Swift, given a great matchup. And for the playoffs, my friend, please feel free to text me if you have any questions. Ollie says, pick 2 running backs. We got McKinnon, Burkhead. Receiver, we have Elijah Moore, Dotson, Chark, Chris Moore. Tight end, we have Frymuth. Tell us we just have to pick 2 of these guys in general. We go Pat Frymuth and Jarrett McKinnon. I mean, no, we go Pat Frymuth and DJ Chark in a full PPR league. Jay says Dobbins or Chris Moore at the flex. We're going to go Dobbins easily. And then Kirk or Watson in a full PPR format. I'm going to go Christian Kirk over Christian Watson, even though, trust me, I'm praying that you actually have Christian Watson as a better option with how many leagues I have Christian Watson in. Just don't know if he can keep up this level of efficiency. Preston says, Mason, I'm feeling the haircut, brother. Thank you. Feeling real nervous about this Bills game. We have Allen and Diggs. Do I pivot to a streamer? Hell to the no. You still play Josh Allen. You still play Stephon Diggs. I understand maybe you lower your expectations a bit compared to where they previously were, but you still got to play them. Gabriel says, hey, Mason, love the channel. In a PBR format, if Stevenson doesn't play, do we start Fournette or Latavius? We go Fournette over Latavius. Also, would you start McLaurin over Higgins? I would not, my friend. And Chuck Norris coming out and says, flex, full PBR. Burrow, Barkley, Connor, Diggs, Godwin, Mark Andrews for the flex. Bench, Hopkins, Najee, Nick Chubb, Cam Akers. I think that we are going to end up most likely going with DeAndre Hopkins in that flex spot, my friend. It is a very tough position to be in. You know what? I would play DeAndre Hopkins over Godwin, and then I'd play Nick Chubb in the flex. I'd play Nick Chubb over Godwin. Now, Nick says, have BBR start 2 receivers in a flex. Waddle, Pittman, Higgins, and Jamal. I am so sorry. Someone's banging on the door. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm so sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. But Nick, with our next question, says, have PPR start 2 receivers in a flex. Waddle, Pittman, Higgins, Jamal. Also, Burkhead, Patterson, or Paris Campbell. 2 wide receivers, we're going to be going with the combo of Waddle and Higgins. And then our flex spot, we are going to be going ahead and we're going to be playing Michael Pittman. I mean, honestly, I don't even care what the weather is. Like, I'm never pivoting off of Waddle for someone like Rex Burkhead. And Robert says, PBR league, need a running back between Rachaad White and Bam Knight. Full PBR, we're going to go Rachaad White over Bam Knight. Tight end, Dallas Goedert or Dalton Schultz. I'm going to go Dallas Goedert, assuming he plays. And for the flex, Zay Jones or one of the tight end or running backs not starting. I will play Bam Knight over Zay Jones, just considering the fact that Zay Jones has a very tough matchup going up against the Dallas Cowboys here. Now, Mike says, need 2 wide receivers between Mike Williams, Christian Kirk, Chris Olave, and Garrett Wilson. Thanks. So thank you for supporting the channel. I think we're going to be going with the combo of Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. I know a lot of people in the chat said they wanted Mike Williams over Garrett Wilson. And now that you have no Mike White for the Jets, which I completely understand. I mean, I will say Mike Williams is a phenomenal matchup against the Tennessee Titans. Anthony says, my man, I have Herbert, Connor, St. Brown, Taylor, Waddle, and then for the flex, Christian Watson. On the bench, we have Jalen Hurts. I'd play Jalen Hurts over Justin Herbert. Leonard Fournette, Pollard, Evans, Garrett Wilson. Any moves? Yeah, I'll play Jalen Hurts over Justin Herbert. And then, honestly, if it is a full-blown blizzard, I would take Waddle out of this starting lineup for Garrett Wilson if it is a full-blown blizzard at the time of kickoff for the Buffalo Bills. And then I would also play Tony Pollard at the flex spot over Christian Watson. I'm really hoping Christian Watson outscores Tony Pollard this week. Really hoping he keeps up the efficiency, but I don't know if it's possible. And Isaac says, full BBR sit 1, Wilson or Higgins. I think we're probably going to bench Garrett Wilson now that we have no Mike White. Amari or Kirk. We're going to bench Kirk Cousins in a tough matchup. Etienne, Pacheco, Montgomery. We're going to bench Montgomery in a very tough matchup against Philadelphia in the worst offense. Waddle, Godwin, or Williams. Waddle, if it looks like it's a blizzard at the time of kickoff. If the weather looks like it's going to be okay or good enough to play, then we will bench Mike Williams. Serving Soul says Donovan Peoples-Jones or Chris Moore for the flex. We're going to go Donovan Peoples-Jones. Ollie says pick 2, Freiermuth, Chark, Palmer. I think we're going to go with Freiermuth and Palmer. I mean, with Chark, don't like the matchup against the Jets. And on top of it, hell, tough spot, and Jameson Williams may expand the role. Yield Fate says Gabe or Hollywood. Thank you, my man, for being a long-time member of the flock. We'll go Hollywood or Mike Williams. Actually, no, hell no. We're going to go Mike Williams. Great matchup against Tennessee. Big money lead the win. Thanks, bud. Lou Moon / Yield Face. No, thank you so much for being a long-time member of the flock, my man. And MAC says, help, 6 minutes to kick off. We're going to go Pittman or Garrett Wilson with Zach playing a quarterback now. I am personally going to go with Garrett Wilson over Michael Pittman, even though Pittman has the best matchup you could ever ask for going up against the Minnesota Vikings. But my friend, you know I'm an idiot, so let me ask everybody in the chat, please. We have 800 people in this live stream. Can everybody please spam the chat? Are you going to go Pittman or Garrett Wilson this week? Michael Pittman or Garrett Wilson. Everybody spam it. Let's get 800 messages. And Abraham says, I have Goff. Should I get someone off the waiver wire? And if so, who'd play Goff? Jordan says, need a flex, Keenan Allen or James Conner. I mean, I love the matchup for Keenan, but James Conner plays every snap. James Conner's a workhorse. You play Conner. Nick says, Pacheco, Swift, or Jamal in a full BBR format. If you're looking at my rankings this week, I mean, we have the running backs relatively close. We have Swift sitting there at 21 in the same tier as Jamal. I will go DeAndre Swift with this supposedly being a close game between these two teams. And when you actually have, I believe, the Jets favored by a point at this point. Now, Knight coming out with a massive donation. Thank you. Says, hey, Mason, can you rate the team this week? We got Brock Purdy at quarterback. Let me see. How many points did we officially get from Brock Purdy on Thursday night? Okay. So Brock Purdy, 2 passing touchdowns, 217 passing yards. So a respectable day. And then Jacobs, running back 1, obviously. Montgomery, low-end RB2, hate the matchup. Jefferson, elite level wide receiver 1. Keenan Allen, wide receiver 1 with the matchup. You know what this comes down to, my friend? And I am praying for you because selfishly, I need the same thing in a million different leagues. This comes down to, what does Jalen Waddle do tonight? That's all this is. Is Jalen Waddle a wide receiver 1 tonight? Does the weather clear up a bit? Does Waddle turn back into who he previously was? I am really hoping for it. I am really rooting for it. It's going to be a close one. I can't sit here and say this is the best team we've ever seen. I think if Jalen Waddle is a top 10 wide receiver this week, though, that gets the job done. Now, Rob says, PBR, we need a receiver in a flex between Chark, Juju, Higgins, and Dobbins. I'm planning on Higgins and Dobbins. I'm not too concerned about the hamstring. Ross says, we need a tight end in a flex between Greg Dulcich, the rookie tight end in Tennessee, P. Ryan, DJ Moore, Slayton, Burkhead, the Bills, and the Lions. Our DST, I think that we are going to end up going with the Buffalo Bills if the weather is disgusting. And then for the tight end spot, I think we are going to end up going with Greg Dulcich, given the fact that you have nobody else in Denver to throw the ball to. And then for the flex, we're going to be going with DJ Moore. SD says, Evans or Amari in a non-PBR format. Love the haircut. Thank you, my friend. And we are going to be going with Amari Cooper. Really like the matchup going up against the Baltimore Ravens at home. Jonathan says, start 3, Najee, Zeke, Brian Robinson, Montgomery, and Jarrett McKinnon. I think we're going to end up going with Najee Harris, Ezekiel Elliott, and then we're going to go David Montgomery in that half PBR format over Brian Robinson, even if it's a tough matchup and a bad offense. Isaac says, Bam Knight or J.K. Dobbins. I'm going to go with J.K. Dobbins, my friend. Great matchup against the Cleveland Browns. Phenomenal running back. But I think that should be it for this live stream. Of course, thank you everybody for hanging out with us. If you have not done so already, subscribe to the channel, drop a like on this live stream. If you want to check out any of these player props, you can find them with the link in the live chat, link in the description, link in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK will get you your first deposit matched dollar for dollar up to 100 on Underdog Fantasy. So make sure you're taking advantage of that. But I think that's all I got for you. Thank you again. I truly do appreciate you. I really hope you have a great day and really hope we get to see you with the live stream. Maybe we go live tonight. If not, we'll be live tomorrow morning. We'll essentially be going live tonight if Waddle has a big day. That's what it comes down to. But thank you, everyone.